What's going on, Couch Company crew? It is Monday, June 21st?
June 21st.
Oh, man.
2021.
That's a 1 in 12 shot to get that month.
6/21/21.
Hey,
there's something there. I don't know.
Yeah, there is something there. Tyler just reminded me that Sunday is Father's Day, so now I'm going to be scrambling to figure something out.
I was going to say, John, what are you doing for your dad on Father's Day?
I don't know, man. Dude,
what's your go-to? Do you do any, like, do you have a, not to put you on the spot.
We usually do like a cookout or something.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's big.
You know, cook for him or something like that. And then he ends up just cooking. So it's pretty funny.
I mean, that's what fathers do. Right?
Yeah, right. Like they see someone else on the grill and they must intervene immediately.
I think it's part of the guy code. Like even if
absolutely,
you're
I would do the
that,
same thing.
Yeah, you have to
whenever you're at a party, you always try to get on the grill, dude.
Yeah,
because you don't have to talk to anyone.
Show your expertise.
Yeah, or you can talk to someone, but like then you can get out of any conversation because you're focusing on the meat.
Yeah,
you know
if you would be like, oh, I gotta add more charcoal.
It's an important part of the process. Yeah, dude, absolutely. So are you doing anything for?
I texted them. We are going to Monticello's.
I love Monticello's.
Monticello's is pretty good. I've been trying to eat better though, and Monticello's is going to be my downfall because I love their pizza.
Yeah, dude, I've been counting my calories, and it is easy to go over 2,000. Let me tell you.
2,000? Yeah. See, I'm at 1,400.
Jesus,
I gotta cut back.
That's unhealthy.
It's not unhealthy if you're doing like a desk job and not like. So what I started doing, I only started this on like Sunday, but I'm doing 1,400 calories, and then I walk 3 miles a day.
Okay. Yeah, so
that's not
lunchtime,
I just do an hour and just kind of walk around the park.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you don't have any physical activity.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be even worse whenever we go back to the office. We're not working remote, where it's like,
Are you guys going back?
Well, that's the...
Yeah.
Maybe.
Dude, everyone's going to try to... I mean, I'm sure you can do your job from home, though.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happened in my job. They were like, well... They can do it at home. Our lease is up, so
yeah, because you guys are 100% from home.
They're like, yeah, we're just at home forever.
Yeah, I think it's tough because people talk about like hey, you can I don't know, bond more in person and things like that, which is,
I guess,
it's true. Like I'm not going to deny that, but if you're talking purely work, like I like the people I work with. I think they're great, but I don't know. I kind of like being able to like take a lunch break, but just walk for an hour outside.
Right. No, for sure. And not have to drive all the way home to go to the bathroom.
Well, that's that's a good point. I mean, to be fair, I haven't done that forever.
Dude, I remember these things. Yeah. I love the 30-second commute. That's really nice. You wake up like 1 minute before your shift starts and you're good to go.
Just ready to do it.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's like turn that into like a 45-minute commute in the morning. And that's like if traffic's okay.
Well, dude, this is my first full-time job, so it's like I don't know what it's like to go to an office, except for the first day.
That's incredible.
I know, right?
Yep.
This is what people are gonna like expect now. Like the times are changing.
Oh yeah, I mean when we hire people or interview them and things like that. I mean that's the first thing that people ask, like recruiters and stuff, is like is this remote?
Yep.
And we're just like, oh no.
Yeah, well, I'm fortunate. I really like it, but well. What do we have on the docket today? I have no idea.
Oh, I don't know. You didn't bring anything?
Well, I mean, I always have everything, but E3 was last week, right?
Ideas. Yeah, E3 was
Did you watch any of that? Or?
I did. Yeah, it was underwhelming.
Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah.
It was
I don't want to say it sucked, because like there's a lot of people that put a lot of time and effort into different things.
Dude,
and I get that. It was really like, hey, these games exist.
Everything was 2022.
Yeah.
First of all, and then there wasn't really any surprises.
It really wasn't. I mean, our predictions were pretty much just like, oh, hey, we hope this is shown, but we're not expecting it. And like in the back of my mind when I was saying that, I was like, oh, but someone's going to come up with like something cool.
Yeah.
Not
really.
Not really.
Everyone was saying that Nintendo won, I guess. Like, they had the best one, but the problem is I don't really care about them. Like, I don't have a Switch.
I guess my argument there is like, why? Like, did they? Like, what did they show?
They revealed stuff. Breath of the Wild 2 is happening, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, they did that last year. Like, it was like, I would argue they didn't show that much more than they did last year.
I mean, they showed a Smash character. That's always popular.
Kazuya Mishima, I'm into that.
Dude, I was going to say, man, I thought you could be more excited about Tekken.
I would be
Smash.
So, to be honest, I thought that was them announcing Tekken into like as like Tekken 7 or something into like the Switch.
I see.
So going from that where I'm like, oh, they're bringing Tekken to Switch to, oh no, it's
do you play
Smash
all the
Brothers.
Tekkens or
I do, yeah.
Yeah. All the way back. What was their first one? 3?
My first one was 1, technically.
Oh, I see,
yeah,
I see,
so
but
that was something where my cousin's got a PlayStation 1 and it's embarrassing, but as a kid I didn't realize what a PlayStation was, right? I thought it was like some little like almost like kiddie toy thing. So it was kind of weird when they're like, oh, we have a PlayStation, but we were having trouble like hook it up. I'm like, how hard is it to hook up a PlayStation? You know, like whatever. But we played it, and I was blown away at the time by the graphics and stuff. And it was a fighting game, so like naturally my mom was like, well, don't look at this, you know, violence.
Right.
So then when I got mine, I guess it would have been 3 years after that one, whenever Tekken 3 came out. I was like, okay, well, I'm buying a PlayStation with my own money saved up. I have to get Tekken. And by that time, Tekken 3 was out.
Right.
And, you know, lo and behold, that was like if you ask people, that's like the best Tekken.
I think maybe the most popular one, at least.
It was the one that, like, Tekken got real goofy. I'm not saying Tekken 3 wasn't goofy, but, like, Tekken 7 is goofy as hell.
Yeah.
Like, just bizarro. I mean, you have, like, robots fighting bears, fighting like, all kinds of stuff.
Well, there was always, like, that, like, isn't King from Tekken?
Yeah,
I don't know Tekken very
but that's
well.
the thing is, like, that's a mask.
He's
so,
like, oh, is it?
Yeah, it's a mask. He's not really a Jaguar.
I thought he was a Jaguar.
Hey, I guess you technically wouldn't know from one. I think in the CG trailer, though, you see, like, just his chin as he's putting on, like, the kind of like a Master Chief
actually
situation.
Sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, he has great backstory, though. His whole thing is he's doing this and fighting for orphans. Like, he's basically, like, getting the money so he can keep an orphanage, like, going.
damn, you knew the lore, dude.
Oh,
That's
I
sick.
got real big into the lore. Is sick. Like, it is family dysfunction.
Sell me on the lore in 30 seconds.
Okay, so you have the Mishima Zaibatsu, which is just a massive corporation, and you have kind of the main father, and his son hates the father. So basically, the father's like, well, we can't have this. So he takes his son, beats him in a tournament, and then throws him off a cliff.
Oh, is that what the trailer was?
That was literally, so that's what it was. Because he has a big scar on his chest because his father threw him off a cliff.
I was gonna say, I thought that looked like the main character, but that's his dad.
Heihachi's his dad with like he has hair off both sides. He's pretty.
I know him. Yeah.
But the thing is with that is, so Kazuya gets thrown off a cliff.
Yeah. Okay.
Clearly, he's gonna die. I mean, he's a kid, right? He gets thrown off.
Yeah.
So he makes a devil pact, right? He's like, hey, Satan, let me live so I can get revenge. Yeah. And comes back in 2, beats his father, throws his father off a cliff, right?
Yeah, there you go.
So then he comes back or whatever, and I'm trying to think of the back and forth on it. So I think there might have been actually a gap where Kazuya, maybe he comes back in 4 or something, but his father literally takes him and throws him in like a volcano at the end.
Oh
like,
my
it's
God.
nuts, but he still lives somehow. It's a whole big thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I love the game. And then there's his grandson. There's Ogre, who's like an ancient god of war. And I see your eyes just glazing over.
Dude, no. I like seeing you passionate about something.
The funny thing is that's just like, I guess the quote unquote main storyline.
Right.
So you have like, you know, Yoshimitsu and Jack and all these other characters doing kind of their own thing. Yeah.
It always amazes me, like fighting games, like there's only so much storytelling you can do in fighting games, obviously, but there's always like so much stuff that goes on in all of these fighting games. It's so crazy to me. And
it's all the cutscenes too. Like, so I think that Mortal Kombat and like the DC, like, what is it, Injustice, I think they did a good job like storytelling, because you do have those through lines. You have cutscenes in the middle and things like that, where, you know, Tekken really didn't do much in that regard. Yeah. Like some of them, they did the classic, like just hand-drawn, like slightly animated things because it was on a budget. So that's kind of annoying. But
dude, Injustice was great. That's one of my favorites.
Super good. Yeah.
You played both of those?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those were great. I like Superman, so making him evil was like, oh man. But it's an interesting. Was that a unique? Is that from a comic? Do you know, or is that like a unique story that they did?
I wish I knew.
Oh, okay.
Well, it has Batman in it and everything like that. I'm sure there's some thought out there that it was inspired by.
I want to say it's probably from a comic series.
Somebody's yelling into their phone.
Well, every podcast we do is so many inaccuracies, but hopefully it's not the guy who gave us 5 stars. Did we get any more 5 stars?
Not that I saw. But if you're listening to this,
hey,
hit us up on Apple Podcasts. Give us a 5-star review, or wherever you're listening to this.
True. But yeah, anyways, those are great games. I did enjoy the stories. I thought they might announce 3 potentially. I was hoping for that, but I guess not. I mean, that game came out like years ago though. So, I mean, they're in the process of making it, I would imagine. Yeah,
you would think so. I think they're working on something. I know that's not helpful. I think they
are they, Tyler?
I think they were working on something else. I think they were announced on something else. Yeah. Because they just came out with Mortal Kombat 11, which was good. Like, it was a fun game. And they're still kind of working on stuff with it. So I thought they were into something.
They probably
else,
are. But I was just hopeful. I mean, I was just hoping for everything.
I mean, that's next, right? Like, that's the rotation.
Yeah.
Wasn't there? I think the interesting thing is there is something going on with like WB and like where those studios fall and stuff like that, because they got bought out.
In terms of, I see. Yeah. I don't know who they got bought out by.
I should have looked. I didn't know we were talking about this. I should
have
looked it up,
but that's the beauty of it. We can just speculate and be absolutely incorrect.
Yeah, I just know that like that's part of it, and then you have like the Arkham games, and then you have like the Lego games and stuff, and they're just like all over the place right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. They have a lot of property,
a lot of things up in the air, and of course, EA3 didn't show us anything.
No,
for that.
Well, yeah, that's amazing. You have so many things, and then you don't show anything, so that's impressive, actually.
See, I give full credit to Microsoft because their entire like whatever they show, who cares? Because at the end of the day, it's like, hey, what was it, 27 out of the 30 things they showed, like all those games? It's like, yeah, they're on Game Pass. So if you're on PC,
that's the
$10
big sell,
a month,
right?
you have all of these.
Yeah, that's the big sell.
A first-party game, like every quarter.
Well, dude, we were talking about it. Like, you've been playing World of Warcraft.
I have.
And we're talking, which we'll get into, but why would I pay, what is it, 15 a month for this when I could pay 10 for like every game?
Yeah, like an MMO or something.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
absolutely.
Because that's the pay per month structure. You're paying more for less content for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you take all the games in Game Pass, I mean, there's over 100 games on there.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's a whole Steam library full of games for.
Oh, and that's not to say you can't sink that much time into an MMO, but
no, well, absolutely not. But yeah, I don't know. Like, especially just like comparing them directly, seeing those different things. They almost sold me on Game Pass. Like, maybe I will get it because there are some things I want, and it would make more sense not to just buy the game. Like, I want to try Forza and what was it, Flight Simulator, dude. Those would look so
on your rig.
Nice,
oh my gosh, I know.
Those would look so good.
See, the thing is with that stuff though, like, in the back of your mind, I could just buy this and own this, right? Like Master Chief Collection, I think is maybe $20 right now for all those games.
Yeah,
that's a steal. Like that alone is a great deal.
Yeah,
but then in the back of your mind, it's also like, well, I could do that, but how much time are we actually going to spend playing this game?
Yeah,
and for $10, we can just play it for a month, and then for another $10, I can switch to literally anything else. And if you're playing something on your own, that's great. But then you also have Master Chief Collection and Gears.
Yeah. Exactly. And, maybe I'll do it down the line. How does it work? You only get one game? Like, is it like checking out a library book, or
no?
You get everything?
You can literally, if you have the hard drive big enough, you can go on there and download every of those 100 games.
Yeah.
Now they do have things that cycle out. So there are a few games cycling out that are pretty big hitters. So I think, Outer Wilds is a good one. That's actually leaving, I think, Game Pass this month, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And a couple other ones, but they are on a rotating basis.
It's like any other streaming service, like Netflix.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the difference is, if it's about to leave, you can purchase it, of course.
Right.
But you can't also purchase it at a discount because it's leaving. So as it's leaving, that it's going on sale. And because you're, the Xbox.
So it's going to be cheaper.
Ultimately, you get a discount on it.
Now, are the Microsoft games always on there?
Yeah.
Like the standalone
all
Netflix titles are always
stuff.
Yeah, that is sweet.
And it's not the beauty with that too. And to be fair, I don't know about the most recent games, but what they were doing is you were getting the ultimate editions of everything.
Oh wow!
So all the DLC, all the extra cosmetics and things like that, all yours. So like if you're talking about Forza, if they have a bunch of like extra cars or tracks or whatever it is, you get it all.
That's insane.
Yeah,
dude. We need to be sponsored by them. You're selling me on this real hard. I hate paying per month, but that's like such an insane value, dude.
I would cancel Netflix immediately if it wasn't, for Chelsea, like watching, whatever she's watching.
True.
Or Gilmore Girls or whatever, occasionally. Which, quick shout out to Startup, the show on Netflix. I don't know why more people are not talking about this show.
What?
It is a
Gilmore Girls?
No, well, yes, but so Gilmore Girls is good. Like, in terms of those type of shows, I'm into it. I like the comedy. I like the
Yeah,
quickness.
yeah.
But Startup is a drama that is insane. Like, just insane.
What's the premise?
It's 3 seasons. The whole premise, and it's tough because I don't want to spoil anything. Like, it's honestly best if you go in cold.
Sure.
But essentially, this woman hacker creates a cryptocurrency.
Okay.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Everyone wants in.
Obviously.
And then she goes one step further and creates something else. I don't want to spoil it.
Okay.
And somehow the crooked government is involved, and Haitian gangsters are involved, and the Russian mafia, and this white dude from the OC.
So it gets pretty wild.
And Ron Perlman's in it, and Martin Freeman's in it.
Damn, dude.
I think this is...
Is this a Netflix original?
I don't think it's... That's a great question. I'm not sure. It might be.
They sometimes put out some bangers.
Well, they're doing the classic. It's 3 seasons, and now it's like, is there gonna be a 4th season? Because it's like everyone's like freaking out. Like I'm about halfway through the 3rd season, so I'm almost done with it.
Okay.
And like I had to like turn it off and go into Chelsea and like shake her as I'm like, just watch this, or I'm gonna talk to you. You know.
There you go.
I don't know if you ever saw like Money Heist, but
yeah.
That's something where like I thought Money Heist was good.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is better.
Wow.
And I like Money Heist.
High praise from Tyler.
It is very high
I'll
praise.
have to check it out.
Yeah. I don't want to talk up too much, but man, it's good.
Yeah. That's always the fear, right? Dude, there's like not a better feeling in the world when you get someone to watch something or play something. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Except
I love
if they
Final
don't.
Fantasy.
Well, dude, yeah. I was so hoping for that, but I mean, we got a text message today from Kyle.
Yeah, the leak or the little detail. So I read more into that, but for those listening, we did see that on the Epic Store they had some like line of code or something like that, referencing the Final Fantasy VII remake, which is awesome.
Yep.
If it's anything like what Square did with like Kingdom Hearts and stuff like that, probably an Epic exclusive, which I think we talked about on a couple podcasts back, which is just fine. Like whatever. I don't think Epic's storefront is as bad as people make it out to be.
I don't want to download it, but if it's for that, I will.
I mean,
as long as I can play it.
Giving a free game or 2 just away per week. Like, it's insane.
How can they do this? I don't understand.
Lose $30 million a year is how they do it, or $300 million. I forget what the number was, but they
just have so much money.
Yeah, well, they came out and said, like, hey, we have that Fortnite money.
Yeah,
so,
they do have Fortnite money.
And good on them. Like, they're being honest. They're like, we made so much money ripping off PUBG that we can just bankroll people.
Well, dude, that's the same with Riot, dude. They make so much money off of League that they have like a card game.
Yeah.
And there's no way that game makes a profit. Like nobody. I will say that game's actually really well done.
It got great reviews. That's something that
it is way better than Hearthstone. And I'm a firm believer in this. And like it's so clean. I love the mechanics of the game. It fixes a lot of issues with like turn-based games because you like in Hearthstone, not to get on a card rant here, but in Hearthstone, like there's not a lot of interactivity when it's not your turn. You know what I mean? Like you can't really play defense at all. But in this one, it's like even if you're you get an attacking token so you can attack, but you're still going turn by turn. So the attacker will play something, and then you'll go, and then he'll go again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can't attack until you get the attack token back, but you can still play and counteract things. Which is like huge.
I'll have to play that because I did see that it got good reviews.
Yeah, it's insane. And the animations are like, dude, it's so polished. It's such a good game, and nobody plays it. It's so insane to me.
It's the same thing with what Valve came out with their game. They remade.
It was a card game?
Yeah, I can't even think of the name. Artifact.
Artifact
was the name. Yeah, and
didn't they have a lot of problems or no?
Ton of problems. No one played it. And then they're like, okay, we're gonna go back to the drawing board and see what we can do here.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, nothing can be done.
So they just shut
it down.
See, Riot just doubles down. They're like they add
throw
content
more money at it. Yeah.
Yeah, like so much content every couple of months. Not even. I mean, new cards, new boards, new skins for the cards. Like it's crazy. New events. They just have the money to do it. There's no way it makes profit. Maybe it does. I'd love to see the numbers. I doubt it though.
So Final Fantasy VII, real quick.
That's a game, is
more than likely coming probably exclusively to the Epic Game Store, yeah.
See, you're probably right. They should just do it on everything, man. Like so many people want to play it, but I mean, I do say that, but like I was saying earlier in our group chat, that's like the game that's going to get people to download the Epic Store. So
I mean,
it's smart.
look at Borderlands 3. They
Yeah.
got what 500,000 subscribers
That surprises me.
or downloads for their thing just from that game alone. That's insane.
That surprises me.
Now, I will say that the line of code in there was shown, I think they said it first appeared in like November of 2020.
Right.
So take that with a grain of salt. It's already 2021. I wonder if it's like a year there. So like if you read between the lines, like does it mean that like, is it going to get released in November or whatever?
Right.
I know that if you talk about the 6-month window, then you're talking about December. So it'll be interesting, but that made me a little hopeful.
Yeah, that would be awesome, man. Dude, that just goes to show like how eager everyone is to play that. Like they're just
they're
data mining.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude.
Well, that's because if you look at the E3 showing, it was nothing. Like they said, hey, we'll remake some of the Final Fantasy games.
Super excited for that, actually.
Yeah, like I want to see 6 and widescreen and pixel perfect and everything.
Exactly. But yeah, they didn't show anything with that. It was that was the best thing for me, and it was just a title. Yeah. It was literally nothing. They're making that Final Fantasy Origins or whatever. Did you see that?
Yeah, that looked good to you? It looked like kind of like 15, but with like stand-in like characters.
Is that the Souls game that they were talking about? I guess.
Yeah, like Souls-like. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't look crazy to me. I was like, okay.
It's like, hey, here's a guy hitting each other, in a kind of a stone thing.
It's just like why?
It
like
looks very confined.
Final Fantasy 16.
Yep.
Coming out and remake,
which they did not show.
They didn't show at all.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Ugh. Just makes you think like where. I need to play 15 though. That's on my list here.
15's really good. As soon as so I'm level 47 in World of Warcraft. So I have 3 more levels to go.
Oh my god.
To hit 50 and kind of finish that.
Are you done or no?
I think I'm done.
Oh man.
I know we were playing to get to like the current expansion, the Shadowlands expansion.
Yep.
And the problem I have with Warcraft is, again, on paper, and this is the same with, I don't know, insert anime here. The storyline sounds incredible.
Yep.
It's just the kind of mission to mission structure. Because like, my main thing is like, okay, are you going to be doing anything different? Or is it still going to be run to this area, kill a bunch of guys, collect stuff, or interact with wells of blood or whatever, and like do 8 of those, and then
absolutely, it's the fetch quest, man. It's so shit.
Yeah, and this one's rough because I don't care about the story at all in this. And granted, and talking with like Kyle and saying like, this isn't a great storyline. Like, he's the first one to say that, which is fine, but like nothing reminds me of Warcraft. Like, yeah, they're trolls and they kind of look like Warcraft, but like, I saw one character I knew for like 10 seconds in the very beginning, and then 47 levels later, like nothing.
It's all new.
Yeah, and it's just like good for them trying to like come up with a new thing, but that's not why I play Warcraft. That doesn't interest me at all.
Right. Yeah, it's all based off the Warcraft world, right?
Yeah, but they've been doing this for how long? Like, over a decade. Just evolved. So it's just like, they've already gone to the well and be like, well, what if we went back in time, and then that's how we can bring characters back and stuff?
My God. What you have to do is you have to have like their kids or something.
Well, they did that. Like, so you had Garrosh and the son of Grom Hellscream and this whole thing. And like,
oh my God.
I love those characters from Warcraft 3.
Yeah.
I mean, in a perfect world, Warcraft 3 Reforged would have been good, and I would have just gotten my Warcraft fix from there, and it would have been fine. But
what a disaster.
It was, I keep typing that in, and if you type in Warcraft 3 Reforged, like, Google just autofills like, is it fixed yet? Or is it good yet? And it's just like, people are like, nah, it's not.
Yeah,
like, they added
gave
a couple
up.
Things. Yeah.
What a cash grab, dude. Fuck Blizzard. They suck.
It's pretty disheartening. Like, I still have high hopes for, Diablo 4, but again, they moved BlizzCon to next year, which means it's not coming out this year.
Yep.
So,
yeah,
I don't
absolutely. Dude, who knows what's going on with that? I will ask you though. So you were speaking about how you're playing WoW. Mm-hmm. I know we had a conversation last week about how shitty MMOs are, in our opinion. But have you like found, as you've been playing this, like what kind of things have you been finding like that are the biggest detractors of like your experience? Is it like specifically the story where like, you wish you could be more attached to it because of like what you played before? Or I know you're talking about fetch quests and stuff. Like I know that's a big deal too.
Yeah, it's tough because that if you really break it down for video games just as a whole, like every game has that. Like they just kind of repeat this structure of missions and things like that. Yeah. I think part of the issue I have with Warcraft in general when playing is because it's never So like if I play by myself,
Yeah.
and this is terrible because I know I picked it up to play with, our buddies. Like,
Yeah.
if I play by myself, I actually enjoy it more. And that's because I feel like I can take my time, understand what the quest is, and just methodically just go and do it. And it's kind of this like tranquil experience, and,
Right.
and it's not necessarily challenging because like they're ushering you along because they want you to play the new expansion. But my thing is like if I'm playing with people, they're much more into the mechanics of it and understanding it and stuff like that. So they're like rushing through everything because they've already seen it, or
Right.
they just want to get to the next expansion. Totally fine.
Yeah.
But then I feel like I'm literally just running behind them, trying to keep up, which is not a great feeling to begin with. And I'm trying to like take time to look at all the gear I'm getting and kind of like min-maxing that.
That's
stuff
what I was doing
that's
in
Diablo.
Diablo. And you guys, I mean, you weren't bad at this, but you guys were like, this doesn't matter.
Well, but that's the thing is, so because I play Diablo, I understand like, none of this matters.
Right.
I still want to do it because that's just like the, little
I don't think you get that back though, even though like you're trying to be with me.
Yeah.
It's just like, you don't have the childish innocence anymore. You just know too much, and it's just impossible to be there. So my question will be like, is your experience being detracted from because of the situation of who you're playing with, or is it the game itself, or a combination, do you think? Because we talked a lot about like the flaws of MMOs.
Right.
But to me, just from hearing like your account of you playing Warcraft, it sounds like it's more just like the experience level of you versus your party mates is so wide.
And Kyle and John are great because they are like, they're very helpful. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, Kyle is explaining everything. He's like, this is why this is cool. This is why you shouldn't have to worry about this part, all this stuff. Like that. That is totally fine. And that's not why I don't want to play the expansion, because Kyle hasn't played the new expansion. So we would all be going in fresh together, and that's fine. We would take a little bit more time, like watching the cutscenes and listening to all the dialogue and stuff. It's just the fact that as you're playing through it, I don't think the mission structure is very good, because it always is just go here, kill, eight goblins and collect their teeth, and then turn into, I don't know, some goblin lady.
Sure.
And that's fine to an extent, but if that's literally all you're doing, it's always combat.
Yep.
The thing that I have an issue with is I don't think the combat's good. If this was all real time, where like you're running in with, it doesn't have to be a controller, but like let's say it's third person, you're running with a controller, and there's like, it's almost like a Devil May Cry aspect to it, where every button you hit, you're actively hitting them.
Yeah, it's more interactive, more technical.
Like the thing I think about is if it's something like Destiny, or if it's something like what was it, Outriders, where it's very active based.
Right.
I think that could be incredible, and that would be fun, more engaging, and things like that. But the thing I was running into, and as I'm getting more powerful as my character grows, like it's starting to become a little bit more fun for the combat side.
Yeah,
but for I don't know, the first 40 levels, it takes me 3 seconds to cast a fireball or a spell.
Yeah,
and everyone I'm trying to kill is already dead by the time I get the spell off, because Kyle and John are just absolutely demolishing people.
Sure.
So it's like, okay, well, it's just that part isn't fun. And then when you think about everything you're doing just to get to different story beats, I could just watch it on YouTube and get all the lore and whatever.
True.
But then you're also trying to get powerful to then do like PvP, which I'm not a big PvP guy usually. Or you're trying to do like big raids or dungeons and things like that. And like, yeah, it's okay. But then now I have 20 people like yelling at me because I'm not following a very specific thing or figuring out stuff. Like, it just doesn't feel great.
Yeah, it's so I guess I have a couple questions based off that. First of all, here's an interesting one. What game can you think of that has like the best fetch quests, the best side quests kind of missions? And the first thing that comes to mind for me, and I've never played these games, but just from what I've seen or heard, is the Yakuza games.
Okay.
Because they're always so. Are you familiar with those? That series?
I know of them. I am not familiar in terms of like the gameplay.
So pretty much,
like
I mean, I think it's like a action, like hack and I'm gonna get murdered for this because I have no idea. I think it's like an action like hack and slash kind of thing. But the thing is, like the mini games and stuff, it gets crazy. You can do anything. You can go to the casino. You can like bake a cake. It's like it gets really wild. It's really like goofy and fun. But that's the thing. Like if it's gonna be like filler missions or like fetch quests or whatever, you might as well just have fun with it. Do something. It's like a lot of it's non-combat. Just these really creative, like wild mini game things, which I think everyone really likes those games. So I think they probably do it well.
Like, to be fair, the expansion we're playing now, which honestly, I don't even know which one that is. Like,
what and WoW?
I apologize. Yeah,
Burning Crusade, the Panda.
No, that's
Express.
I'm trying to think of what the current one is.
I have no idea.
I know, like we're getting ready to go into Shadowlands. So whichever one was before Shadowlands.
Okay.
They have some funny quests where it's just like, oh, you're in a helicopter and you're just dropping bombs on guys and things like that.
Cool.
And like it's funny.
Yeah.
But it's not like, I don't know, it's maybe a couple seconds of like, oh, that's clever,
something different.
And then that's it. Yeah. Like it's something different, but it's still the same thing over and over again. And the problem is, like I said, all games do this. Like if you go and you play Arkham Asylum, like
you have to have filler.
You're still gonna have. You have to find this many riddles, and you have to do like. But the thing is with that is the gameplay and like the kind of moment to moment stuff is so much fun,
right? That
it's okay.
Yeah,
like Sea of Thieves, you're sailing in an open ocean for half the game, which isn't the greatest. But the combat that you get into is so fun that like it's worth it. Where I didn't get that aha moment yet for Warcraft. Yeah,
and I feel like with Sea of Thieves, like the exploration aspect of it, like.
Just can be,
yeah. I mean, maybe not for you guys anymore, but that's what I would like about that. What I thought of, another good example is like the old Assassin's Creed games back when I was really into those. Like, there would be like stupid side quests where you have to find things, but scaling buildings and like fucking up guards and sneaking around and stuff and getting into big fights, like that was the fun of it. Where it's like these aren't as offensive because the gameplay's so fun, the world's interactive, you know what I mean, feels alive and stuff.
And like it doesn't take much for me specifically to latch onto something like that, because if you give me an open world and you just give me a ton of icons where I can methodically go through
Cyberpunk,
and just check off exactly. I mean, to an extent, yes,
absolutely.
But and just go through and just check off all of these things. And the one thing that Cyberpunk didn't do, at least not that I saw, that Assassin's Creed Odyssey did really well, was when you finished an area, a big ol' like 100% gold thing pops up on the screen. It's like area cleared, or you finished this, move on to the next area. So just I could go from like Providence to Providence and just clear it out, knowing that I completely did everything I possibly could here.
Yeah,
you just kept moving on, and you would just see this massive map just slowly get filled in as I'm going through, knowing that I'm seeing everything.
Guild Wars did a good job of that as well, where you'd have 100%.
Like the more you talk about Guild Wars, the more I want to just download that again, and we just go explore.
When you were talking about how like linear the combat is in World of Warcraft, where it's just like button smash and your rotation or whatever. I was like, dude, Guild Wars is like, because in Guild Wars, the most frustrating thing for me. And this podcast has turned into just hating on MMOs, which is just hilarious to me. But the most frustrating to me thing for me in World of Warcraft is I could like move out of the way and I see like the firebolt miss me and I still take damage from it. Like it's literally unavoidable unless you're like doing a spell or an ability or something.
Right.
Whereas in Guild Wars, like you can dodge roll and stuff, and literally like if it doesn't hit you on the screen, you will not take damage.
Yeah, it's a lot more like movement based, like Diablo is.
Yes. Yeah. Like you can kite things, you can move around, like movement matters. Whereas I feel like, and I'm sure people who play World of Warcraft would argue with me, there's probably mechanics in place, but I don't think it's just that straightforward.
Yeah.
As like, because Guild Wars is super simple. Like I said, it's like 4 abilities that you have, and like you can get more depending on like what class you are and like what you're doing or whatever. But for me, it was like super simple, and I could grasp it, and I like the movement and everything. Like I like that more.
It did a good job too, because it would show you like all, unless I'm misremembering this, but it would show you all the different question marks that you have like available, and you'd go through and you like ping them all. And Warcraft does that to an extent, but like you have to be fairly close to the checkpoint or the person giving the quest to actually see it and stuff. So I don't know. Like,
Guild Wars is great because you can see the whole map, and it's like it's faded out.
Yeah.
Okay. But then when you get to the area, it unlocks. You can see everything you can do, and there's like all these different things. Whether it's like vantage points where. And it's cool because vantage points are like these high up places where you get up there and it's like an Assassin's Creed-esque, surround shot or whatever, scenic shot, stuff, eagle eye, whatever. And it would be like tough to get up there. Like it'd be like little, not a puzzle, but like a little platformer to get up there. So it's just like little things like that were fun. And there was all those things, but even like, you notice those aesthetic things way more than I do, like how a map's laid out and stuff and like how it's presented. Mm-hmm. So the fact that I really loved Guild Wars, the way they like laid out the world map and stuff, I'm sure that you would really dig it.
Can you sprint in Guild Wars?
Yeah.
Can you? Like that's one of the things in like Warcraft. It's like, no, you can't sprint. You just run real slow.
I forget how they do it. It's something. It's either something you toggle it on. Like obviously you can't do it in combat.
Yeah,
but I think it's something where you like toggle it on, and it's stupid. Like every MMO does this. Like you don't unlock sprint until like level 10.
Yeah, or it's something where it's this artificial. And honestly, Star Wars even does it. But the way that Star Wars does it is they make you run through like a massive empty building just to get to like your character.
Oh my god, I know.
And that's the thing that drives me crazy with MMOs is like. All their design choices are not for, like, I'll say fun, and I'm not saying all of them. Like,
right.
There's plenty of fun. Like, obviously, people love these games, so I don't want to like just shit all over them for no reason. No. For me personally, it's like I'm seeing all of these things where it's specifically like gating people or slowing people down because they don't want them to blast through the content so quickly,
right?
Because that's literally how they make their money.
Yeah,
right. So,
right. Exactly. That's a great point. And
well, I mean, Guild Wars obviously is a little bit different because it's not a monthly charge.
Right.
And that sort
you
of
just
thing,
pay once, which oh my god, maybe that's why it's my favorite. Honestly, that's such a big bonus for me.
I would totally go back to Guild Wars.
I can play Guild Wars whenever I want.
Yep.
I don't have to restart a subscription. I still have it.
Or it's not like I think Elder Scrolls, honestly, out of everything, is still my favorite one because I feel like it was as one-to-one as you could get in terms of like if you're actively like latching on to dudes and like pulling to you and stuff and attacking and stuff.
Is that first person?
It can be.
Oh,
but, I mean,
I would actually
Warcraft
love that.
Could be first person if you wanted to. You can zoom all the way in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that really?
Yeah, it's not great.
It's got to be like old school first person where you don't see yourself.
Like
you don't see your arms or anything.
Yeah, it's just like
Elder Scrolls is like an actual Elder Scrolls game. Yeah,
yeah, it's a toggle
where you can see. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, Elder Scrolls. They actually went back and did some work where it's like, there's a lot more little dumb trinkets and items in the world to feel more like an Elder Scrolls game.
Oh, nice.
The problem with that is I think it's a night and day difference between the free version and when you pay, $15 because the $15 like unlocks. It's like there's this I don't know, haze of bullshit on it.
Yeah,
and you just give them that $15 thing, and it's like, oh, suddenly this game's fun. That's what I.
And here's the problem. It's not like you're gaining something from paying the $15. It's like you're just like unlocking the handicap.
Yeah.
And that's a huge distinction. Mm-hmm. It's not like I'm getting a bonus from this. It's like, okay, I'm actually playing the real game.
Right, because it's like little stuff like, oh, your materials aren't taking up bag space, or you have more bag space, or
the
now,
bag space is a huge one, man. Like,
for like no reason. Like
right.
That's kind of stuff that just really, really grates me. And can you play it? Yes. Can you get some enjoyment out of it? I'm sure, but it's very, very clear on like what they're taking away from you. Because I think you get like you gain experience faster. It's not necessarily you gain it faster. I just think you gain it at what the appropriate amount is.
And if you're not paying for it, you're just under leveled.
It's a slog.
And it's just exactly. You're not playing the real game if you're free to play, which like it makes sense. From a business standpoint, but
for sure. But I think that it takes one person. Well, when I say person, one company to come up with a better way, and hopefully with like
Guild Wars tried. I mean, it obviously didn't do anything.
Guild Wars did a very good job in the time because, and to be fair, like Warcraft has kind of fixed a lot of this too by now. But whenever Warcraft was going on, Guild Wars came out, Guild Wars had it down where it's like if you go and you start adventuring, like you have these hubs, but then you go into your instance. So their big marketing thing on Guild Wars 1 was like, hey, you don't have to wait for a boss to spawn and stuff.
Right.
And you get these really unique encounters because it's only you there. So, or your guild or your squad.
Well, I actually think Star Wars did that best.
Yeah.
Personally, because
and that's the next evolution of it.
It felt like I was playing, it was made by EA, so it felt like a Mass Effect-y kind of thing. You get the dialogue wheel, you get like these decisions, like light side, dark side things. I remember like in Star Wars, they had those, at least that one mission where we could all play as a group, and it was like a little, its own little story thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where we were like we were trying to capture a prisoner or something. That was like the most fun. Like you roll for who's speaking, like everyone picks their dialogue option and you roll, and then whoever gets the highest says their line or whatever, and it like plays into like what your background was and stuff. Like if a bounty hunter said something, it would be like, I'm doing this for the credits, like fuck you guys or something, or, you know what I mean, like this is my job. So that was the best. Like that was the best experience I had in that game by far. It was so much fun. And
that's pulling in the story aspect too. But then when you talk about a mechanical or a gameplay aspect, the thing that I loved about it was we were all playing kind of at the same pace.
Yeah. But you're talking Star Wars?
Yeah, okay. Because we were all kind of experiencing it together and whatnot. Yeah. But eventually you're going to have somebody who goes hard on the game and either blasts by everybody, or they pull in an old character, or they know more than everyone else. So it's all trivial, right?
Sure.
So I think that part of that enjoyment is you have to find somebody that is like-minded, right? Yeah. So like if you and I played Guild Wars, I think we would have
I want to play something with you, just like as an experiment. And I have too many ideas, so a lot of these won't happen. But here's the thing. Let's put it in the box.
Sure.
I want to play an MMO with you, and maybe it'll just be us two.
Yeah.
Just no one else.
Sure.
Just me and you, and it's got to be one that we've never played.
Okay.
So it's fresh. So not Guild Wars.
I mean, it would have to be Final Fantasy, right? But like, do we want to pay for it?
You played Elder Scrolls.
I played Elder Scrolls, yeah.
It had to be Final Fantasy. This is my elaborate way of getting you to play. I kind of wanted to try it. I don't know.
I tried downloading it, but the server, they had like a free weekend or something. So I downloaded the client and everything and tried to get on. And
didn't work?
No.
Damn. That's not a good sign.
I mean, it was a free weekend, so everybody was getting on there.
I would hash out like a month. What is that, $15 1 month?
Sure.
We just give it a try for 1 month. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I would be willing to do that. I hate that, but I want to like MMOs because I see other people love MMOs, but
I just don't.
It just might be a personality thing, honestly, because they would like MMOs for a way different reason than I would like MMOs. So like my favorite MMOs, it's either got to be a world I care about. Mm-hmm. So Star Wars, I was big into DC Universe. I know we got you to download that for a second.
I played that for a night, and I was like, nope.
Well, it's old, but
it's too old. Yeah,
it was so much fun. Like I like DC. Like I'm a big DC guy, not huge, but like I like it enough where it's like, oh man, I get to create my own hero and everything. Like that's the best part. Like putting myself in that universe, because like in Star Wars, I made the guy I would want to be. Like if I was in the Star Wars universe and I got to pick what I wanted to do, that would be him. Like to a T. It was so excellent, and I had such a blast with that. I was like a Sith warrior, and you go through it, and the story for that's actually pretty good. I did enjoy it.
Would you do something like a Planet Side or a?
I've always wanted
EVE Online.
I never played Planet Side. Like that experience sounds so cool to me, but I don't know how realistic it is. Like because like what I'm imagining is this massive, like you have a big guild and like you have these huge fucking battles and stuff.
That's exactly what it is. So like,
that's what it is. But like, is that feasible? Like because you don't know that many people and like, I don't know. I feel like it wasn't.
I think it becomes less about that. And it's And granted, I don't even think Planet Sides. It might still be around. I don't know, but I thought they like changed it up a little bit.
They might have.
Where, I mean, whenever I played, I guess it was Planet Side 1, like, you could literally jump in, you would have, like, I think I was, like, an infiltrator or whatever the smallest dude is that goes invisible.
Right.
And you just go into the world, and, like, you could find an outpost that has not been captured for, like, your color, and you can go and do that, and then suddenly everybody comes after you.
I have a great game idea.
Yeah, hit me.
All right, here it is. Warhammer.
Yeah.
40K.
Mm-hmm.
You do that with that. Oh my god, that'd be so much. You get to pick your faction. Okay,
Yeah.
so you can be Space Marines. How much do you know about Warhammer?
Next to nothing.
Okay,
So I'm sorry, we're talking about 40K, not
40K, not
Warhammer.
fantasy.
Okay.
The fantasy side note is that they did come out with a what is it? Total War Fantasy, which actually did really well.
Yeah.
A lot of people really like that. The Total War games are really fun. Never got into them myself. I should give them a try. I'm just really bad at RTS, so it discourages me because I'm just fucking terrible. So, but my one friend loves the Total War game, so he's always been trying. Maybe I'll get that to try. Put it on the list of things we need to try. We need to play everything.
Should I be actually writing these things down?
No, fuck that. But Warhammer 40K is the like futuristic version of that. So I'm gonna get this lore. Like, there's so much fucking lore, and it's wild. And I'm gonna get it all wrong, but essentially, it's like 40,000 years in the future, and humanity, everything's like trying to kill us. So like everything that's not human is trying to kill us essentially, and everything's at war. That's pretty much what it is, and it's just fucking crazy.
Sure. So it's funny because Chelsea's brother actually is a huge
Warhammer fan. Oh
yeah,
man,
so, like,
I should talk to him about that.
Screaming at the
oh dude, yeah, he's
just that one sentence.
I'm so sorry,
it's like,
dude.
oh, it's terrible.
Well, dude, the humans are like. We have like, so the person like I guess in charge or something is like the emperor, and he's like fucking, he should be dead, but he's on this throne that's like keeping him alive, and they have to like sacrifice like 50,000 people a day just to keep him alive or something. It's fucking like, the lore is crazy.
Yeah, like there are like machines and stuff. They have to like, because I there was a almost like a 4X game or like a tactic game.
Yeah,
that came out, and like
Deathwing,
Mechanicus.
Mechanics. Yeah. That's a faction. So so what's cool about 40K is that there's all these factions, right? So there's Space Marines, which are pretty much like I guess like Spartans from Halo. Like they're super soldiers. They're fucking great. Like the lore gets sick. Like they have like 3 hearts or something. Like they have like multiple organs, so that like if they fail, like Krogans in Mass Effect, so if like they fail, they have like their secondary organs. Backups. So they're just fucking crazy. So there's Space Marines, and there's a bunch of different factions in that, and there's like Imperial Guard, which are like normal humans, and they kind of like use like, you know, just technology and stuff like tanks and things like that. But there's like Space Orcs. There's Eldar, which are like space elves. There's Tau, which are cool. So there's all these factions. So what would be cool about that is if it's like a PlanetSide style thing, where, because like it's a tabletop game, so it's supposed to be pretty massive, right? Like just all this chaos and like a bunch of shit going on and a bunch of like weapons and stuff. So that would be a lot of fun to do that. But to be able to like, it would be a thing where it's like hybrid tactical, and then like a massive like battle with guns and shit, like PlanetSide.
You would have to do something like PlanetSide eventually just evolved. Again, I'm talking about PlanetSide 1 because I don't think I ever played 2.
Right.
It just devolved into like who just had more firepower and like and like different factions had different abilities where it's like, and I know I'm going to be butchering this, but like I think that like the yellow guys were like the strongest, like the beefiest guys,
like statistically.
Yeah, but then like the purple guys had like better firepower. So
see,
like
I would make it even, actually.
Yeah, it all depends because you have to make them distinct. Otherwise, there's zero reason for people to
pick a faction. Sure,
yeah, they're just gonna pick their like favorite color.
What if you did it lore based? Like, this is what these guys believe in. I'm sure probably one would be more popular than the other, but keep it even,
maybe. Or you do something where you start limiting things where like a certain faction is only limited to you know, the best of the best players. Right. So like you have to take like an aptitude test or something, but they do limit it where
aptitude test.
But like, let's say you take all the shrouds of the world, right?
Yeah.
And they get put on one team, but that team is always limited to like 100 players. And like you're gonna have people that are like close to Shroud or on his level or something like that.
Just statistic based.
But now they're in other factions, so there still is that thing. But like,
that'd be great content for them.
Exactly.
Just fucking mowing down us plebs.
Can the top 100 players
that'd be an interesting
the rest of the servers? Like, that's
so
nuts.
Back to my Warhammer idea, which probably sounds better in my head than in like on paper or in the ether.
The way they're cranking out Warhammer games, it's probably in the
maybe
works.
I'll give them some suggestions, dude. The way I imagine it though, in a perfect world, you combine PlanetSide 2 or whatever, like just these huge battles. In PlanetSide, I'm assuming there's vehicles and stuff.
Oh yeah,
because that would have to be a big part of it, because that's a big part of Warhammer. So you'd have that, the vehicles, like a Battlefield experience, but it's like futuristic, right?
Sure.
But I would imagine there's like a tactical element to it where it's like, do you play the old like Star Wars Battlefront games like on PS2, like Conquest mode? Yeah, where you have like a big galactic map, and you go planet to planet, and you utilize your resources and stuff like that. So yeah, some battles would be really lopsided, but maybe that's because you made a really good tactical decision where you're spending a bunch of resources.
It would be
to take
like
this.
Who controls that? Like, do you have people that literally spec into not combat? And they spec into, not to go back to the Star Wars Galaxy, but to go into like the politician or the commander aspect.
Here's how it works. So you can play as a tactical guy, or you can play as a soldier.
Yeah.
And so when you queue up for a game, you are in someone's tactical game, but you're just a soldier playing. You know what I'm saying?
Sick. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Where like you would have to go and like follow the tactical commands and things like that.
Yeah. Exactly. Where like you're getting pings, you're getting supply drops, you're getting reinforcements, like whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be
soldier.
That'd be
you wouldn't know.
You wouldn't notice.
Overall, but like a tactical guy can
top
see
down, they see you exactly
you
what's going on.
Trust them. Yeah,
that would be so awesome. And now here's the thing. Feasibly, it would probably be like you play as a soldier and you're just spawning into people's random games, like tactical games, and there's no really attachment. Like if you leave, you're just gone, and you queue up again, it's someone else's game or whatever. But what would be amazing is if you like had the same one. You know what I'm saying? Like in a perfect world, it would be like, this is our game, like here's our universe, here's all the factions, we're going to try to take over the universe.
That's your squad, but like or that's your army commander that you kind of like stick to. But like you could easily, well, none of this is easy, but like you could just turn that into guilds and things like that.
But that's where you get into like, okay, we got to get on it Thursday at 6 because we got a big fucking battle planned. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then if you go from like the way that EVE Online is, where it's just like, okay, we are taking this continent,
we're striking.
We have to keep this because it like if we keep this is fueling all our tanks.
Yeah, that's what I would want, man. That would be so like, this is our oil reserve.
Yeah,
we need to defend this. Yeah. And then you like lose a bunch of bonuses if you lose that world or whatever. That'd be so much fun, and it'd be fucking crazy because there's so many factions. You could have like 6 factions in the game easily. Yeah, and
you could even take it a step further too. And like, what if you brought in like a wingman mode? So like if you're a soldier, every I assume you would have different classes. And
absolutely,
stuff like that.
That's what's great about Warhammer. It's so different. Yeah, whereas like Battlefield, you're all just soldiers. So you can have a medic, you can have like a sniper, right? But in Warhammer, it's like, okay, one guy can have like magic, and then the other guy's like artillery. You know what I mean? Like it's very different.
It would be sick if you could have like a wingman where one of you is maybe like the combat guy, and the other one is like the support, but like he's the one that's like spotting guy. Like he can call out enemies, or only
here's what would be interesting.
With,
so
like, medic stuff, or you
could do that. That makes sense. And the thing is, so the way you would do that is you can have a bunch of tactical guys, quote unquote, in the same game, and then it would just be a voting system, right? Like I vote that we move here. You know what I'm saying? That might be tough, but
so that's the thing is, if you try to shoehorn people in, like there's always going to be that person that just runs off and wants to do their own thing. Yeah. So it's how do you punish that person while making it still fun for people that are playing the support role or the tactical role or anything? Because if you're a tactician and you're saying, all right, we have to take this hill, full force, do it.
So in Battlefield, what they would do when they did have like that tactical thing, which was so brilliant, by the way, like you could be on your iPad.
It was too early.
It was too early for its time, but I'm sure you could do it today though.
Probably. I mean, someone would do it for sure.
Because that's just so sick. Just someone on their iPad, you know what I'm saying? Just controlling it. Anyways, so what you do is like they'll click an objective to take, and if you take that, you get more points. Now, it didn't really mean anything in Battlefield, like it boosted your score, but in this game, it could be like kill streaks or whatever. Like, you get X amount of points, you unlock a aerial strike, you unlock a vehicle to be deployed, something like that, just maybe just a power up for yourself, because there is that. Like Warhammer's crazy enough where you can just fucking like have orcs who take drugs and just get huge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, get berserk.
So that's how you reward that kind of action. Another thing could be, and this is probably too crazy, you'd need enough people But if there's no respawns, like that's your guy.
You could do no respawns. You could make it where, like, in order to force people to do it, what if, as a tactician, you could actually draw on the map of possible locations to go, and then if a person, like one of your like officer deviates, you get that, like, you're leaving the battlefield, or you're deserting your group or something like that.
You don't want to restrain people though, because like, what if that's part of the plan? Like to have someone,
but that's the thing, is that's up to the tactician.
Oh, so he'd have to draw that into
right.
it.
So
okay,
like, what if?
So he essentially draws the area that's in bounds, kind of like in bounds.
But he could do it by a per squad thing. So like, let's say you have
that would be
64 men under you, it would be insane. Don't get me wrong. It would be absolutely
that would be
insane.
RTS territory, dude.
But that's the thing, is you're mixing this RTS, but with real life people who might not be as micromanaging as you want.
They don't do it perfectly, so you have to account for that.
Right. And imagine if the only way to get to a tactician is because you start off as a soldier.
Yep.
And as you go through, you get these accolades, or, you know, maybe you get like achievements and things like that that carry you so far, and you can rank up.
Yeah.
But then after that, it's actual players that are like rewarding you like talent points, or rewarding you with like, for lack of a better term, kudos.
Would the commander like look at statistics at the end of the map, and he has X amount of points to dole out to people he thinks he does well?
That would be fantastic. And likewise, like I'm sure there would eventually be a troll in the tactician spot, but then all it would take would be like maybe one game, and like everyone just like floods him as just like, oh, this is terrible, and you flag him as like a
everyone reports, and that would be easy because you would lose the battle. And in this theoretical game, that would be a big problem because you're losing like a point on the map, right?
Yeah. So, and like, how sick would it be where it's just like, okay, hey, like, John, your squad as a tactician, you can like key into like just your headset or something and be like, hey, I need you to go on like a covert ops mission.
Oh yeah. See, that's just fucking crazy,
pull three of your squad, go east. Yeah. And like, he unlocks that side of it, and like, you can go around and say, he's like,
now, is that too linear? Is that too linear for the soldiers? Like, because there is something nice about running and gunning and kind of being free and just making a split. So can there be an option for you just to make a hero play, like go against your commander? Maybe you have to be high enough level to unlock that. You got to be like a certain rank to
either
prove that
high
you're
enough
not
level, or like, what if you could say like emergency line to the commander or something, and be like, you know, like you hit it and like it goes straight to him, and it's like, you know, like, what do you got? It's like, I see it opening. It's like, take the shot, you know, like something like that. That'd be sick.
Yeah, that'd be fucking amazing.
But that's the thing, is like, if you could somehow craft something where like, you know, everyone gets to do kind of what they want, but whether it be strategy or just shooting and running and gunning and stuff, because is it linear? Yes. But my only counter to that is, if you look at like a Call of Duty map, I think that if you're talking about like what's in bounds and what's not bounds, I would think a Call of Duty map is pretty large. You know, so like, imagine that entire thing is like, you know, one swipe. If like a tactician's just painting the map, he can just say like, okay, this whole area is in bounds.
That could be a nice UI too, where it's just real seamless. And you would
have to have that something.
And people with pens would be at an advantage. You know, those electronic pens.
It would be so much pressure on a tactician. And
I feel like you'd have to have multiple tacticians. You just can't
on a large scale.
If it's a huge scale, I mean, there could be like, you know, different missions. Like there could be a covert ops mission where you have a squad of 4 scouts trying to infiltrate a building. See, this is something I've always dreamed about as a kid. Having a game where you're the defenders and you're just guarding a oil refinery or a base of something with battle plans. Mm-hmm. So you spawn into the game and you're just chilling, you know, talking to your buddy, fucking guarding.
Right.
So you know something's going to happen because obviously you spawned into the game, but it could be at any point. Like they could wait you out like 10 minutes. You know what I'm saying? You're just fucking sitting there like looking for things, and like, obviously, you'd have to like either not be able to leave a certain area, or probably what would be better is you can't control your guy until shots are fired, because you could set up in a specific way. Mm-hmm. So you'd have to play with that, but that would be so much fun, dude. You're just sitting there like it's pitch dark, you know something's coming, and like there's nothing you can do until the fucking, you know, shit hits the fan. And it might be like I said, like a squad of 4, 1 tactician, like big battle plan. And that's another idea I had, is like pre-game lobby Your tactician's just talking to you. You're writing out the battle plan. You know what I mean? Like he's drawing it on the board and everything. He's like, squad A is going to do this. There's going to be a flank from here. If we capture this, we're going to get this vehicle we can put in the sky. That's going to help us here. Blah blah blah. And then I would just love that just all goes to shit like as soon as the battle starts.
Or what if you have mercenary groups where if you go in, like let's say you have all these factions and stuff going, right?
Oh my god!
So you have people that are dedicated to one side and other people dedicated to the other. Sure. Let's say you wanted to go just crazy, and you just said like, okay, hey, we're queuing up. There's a group of let's say 10 of us, right? And we're the Diamond Dogs or whatever from Metal Gear,
sure.
And we're saying like, okay, hey, we're going to be these mercenaries. You could basically just put yourself on like a market, right?
Yeah.
And now both factions are like, okay, let's look at what are their things. Okay, this is a sniper, this is like whatever the
and then picking them up.
Are.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So then it's just like, okay, the East is saying they will give us 20,000 credits amazing. Or something.
Yeah.
And like you would have to like continuously buy your gear and keep your gear up and stuff. Right. So then you would have like the East trying to buy like our like top of the line hit squad and stuff like that would be incredible.
Here's the thing. Here's what you do too. So you create your own character and there's no respawns. Now a way to help mitigate the massiveness of this is you have to have AI or like bots or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. Just like constantly just like
you just have grunts because okay, so like I'll go back to like the new Battlefront games, like the Star Wars games versus the old ones. The old ones felt so much better because you have all these, and obviously there was online, but this is a really early days, so I never played the online, but you're just playing against bots. So you're just a god, you know what I'm saying? So there's that aspect of it where like even the worst of the worst players will feel, and Titanfall, will feel good.
Absolutely.
Like you can get kills, you can fuck people up, you know what I'm saying? And you're kind of like these bigger guys, you know what I mean? Because you're playing yourself. You're going to be better than the bots, obviously. So that's a way to like help bolster the massiveness of it. So you don't actually need like the biggest player base in history.
Yeah.
And that would be really easy to like in terms of the tactician as well, where you can like there's your RTS aspect of it, where these guys will literally do exactly what you're punching them in to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be. And then to think that like if you have like tacticians and maybe they get voted up or the community chooses them and obviously like there are players who are just going to be all in on certain things, right? So then they will eventually kind of bubble to the surface and they're exactly like let's say Shroud
like an MMO,
right?
Where there will be a guild leader, they'll be the big dogs, Yeah. But here's another aspect I was thinking about. So in the 40K universe, I haven't played in forever, but what they added back when I was playing was like this alignment chart, and it was all the factions, and what you could do was there was this alignment chart with what factions could you pair with your faction. So if it was like green, you had no restrictions, you can just pair them with each other, you know what I mean? If it was yellow, it'd have to be like there's like certain limitations. It's basically to represent like who's most likely to ally with each other, and that was like super fun because you have two armies pretty much, or like a squad of a different army as your ally. So what would be really interesting in tactical mode, and this gets kind of wild, but you start making truces. You're like, okay, we're going to joint attack these guys, you know what I mean? Take this base and we'll split it, or we'll help you with this assault. Like I'll spare some men and then you owe us,
right.
Money's exchanging hands. Like there's like diplomacy in that as well in the tactical side. That would be fucking crazy. That would just
send up like an SOS and like other guild leaders have to like come to your aid.
1 million credits.
Yeah.
I'll give you a cruiser. 1 million.
Yeah. That would be sick.
Yeah.
It's a fun game.
That would be so crazy. Like the technical capabilities of this game would be like impossible.
Yeah.
I think there's a way to do it though.
Yeah. I think that you would probably have to sacrifice things like visuals and whatnot.
You might,
but to be completely honest, you could do that and just have like World of Warcraft visuals, and it would probably be fine.
If the gameplay is fun enough, yeah. I mean,
that's
and that this could be a thing where it's an art decision.
Yeah,
it could be like a cartoony-ish or a specific art style that's not graphically demanding.
Right.
You know what I mean? That could definitely help with that. But man, would that be fun to be able to? There's like something for everyone.
It would be tough because then you could even have things where like, you have your guild leader who's making like maybe the big decisions, but maybe he's just the big decisions and you have tacticians underneath him.
You'd have to.
Maybe you have people that, go out and like maybe you have people making like ammunition or trucks.
Oh, wow. That
like,
gets
if you want to
into
get like
real crazy.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
maybe they have to go out for like minerals and stuff, and you have to
That'd
have
be
people
really
like
crazy.
stationed at any given point, like doing
That
the
would be
work.
more like Eve, right? Where you
Yeah,
can be like a
right,
mining
exactly.
ship, and then
Yep.
someone just rolls up on you, and you can
Yep. And you feel like
pay for
hire
protection.
people.
Yeah. So that would be kind of the
It's
same
basically
aspect.
Eve on ground.
Yeah. Eva
fun.
crowd.
It'd be-
Yeah.
it'd be cool, man.
That is what that is actually.
But like that's a perfect example of like things like people spend tons of money on that stuff.
Yeah.
Where if you could just kind of skirt that line, where maybe it's not as expansive as Eve, where you're just seeing massive amounts of like real world money like going down the drain. But just try to make it as fun as humanly possible. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. If we were ever going to make a game, or if we were ever like pitching something, it has to be fun. In my mind, it has to be kind of more arcadey and just like the gameplay has. And Outriders is a perfect example of this, where gameplay wins. It can be a subpar everything else as long as it's fun.
I think,
and then you build on it.
I agree with that, but I think I would take it a step further and say that it doesn't even have to be the gameplay. Something has to be at a level in which it's worth it.
Yeah.
Because like we said, like Mass Effect's gameplay is not fun, but the story, the interactive nature of it is so well done that you forgive the other mistakes. So if something in the game hits that level, it could be whatever. It has to be one of the elements of the game. I think you're going to have people who like it and enjoy it.
Could you imagine, like, you're starting this game off and everyone's on equal footing?
Yeah.
And to like day one, it's just about getting into your ship or whatever, right?
Just building up your army.
And as you're logging into the game and you're queuing up basically at like midnight or whenever the game starts, you just see thousands and thousands and thousands of drop pods just shooting down onto the surface of this thing.
Yeah.
And
it's
then
just
it's
a
just
mad
people
scramble.
just racing for territories and getting the leg up on it. It would take
and nobody knows what's good.
Exactly. How cool would that be? Where it's like,
crazy.
You land on a patch of like oil and you're like, this is amazing, but then somebody else lands on like, I don't know, some mineral that you didn't know existed, and suddenly they have
their
like
armor's way better.
bullets.
Yeah.
Oh man,
that would be insane, dude.
But then that's how it starts, and then like it's this purity of, you like, obviously balancing is important, but like if there is this like tyrannical like sweep of like, okay, Team Red is just crushing the map, like they're just absolutely dominating everybody.
Right.
It's like, how do you combat that? And that's where it gets tricky, and that
gets really tough. Yeah, you'd hope that it would balance itself out in such a massive game. I have no idea. Like in this game, my example was like Warhammer, so it'd be like it would get even crazier because every faction has their unique weapons, armor, abilities. Like for example, the way each army plays is obviously way different. So like orcs are very swarmy. Mm-hmm. They just throw people at their problems. You know what I mean? Like,
sure. But then you would have to have the player count, or you would just have to increase the number of NPCs.
Yeah, I mean, you just have a ton of bots because like most of the guys are just like, fodder. You know what would be interesting? There is a faction called Tyranids, and they're just like alien bug things, monsters. So those would just be like non-playable, and you would get, because like in the lore, it's like you land on a planet and like, oh, it's a hive.
Right.
Fuck, you know what I mean? Like it's pretty much what is it from StarCraft? Zerg?
Yeah. Or the undead from Warcraft.
Sure, yeah. It's kind of the same vein as that, where it's just a hive mind. That would be amazing. Like you're in this huge battle and wait, we're in a fucking hive here, dude. This huge fucking things come up from the ground and like it just changes everything about the game. You know what I mean?
That would be a great way too, where you can just pick like, oh, this is a hotly contested area, or this is
maybe that's a way to balance
it
in
here.
Yeah,
and then boom. Now
because if you're the dev,
overrun.
you can decide. Oh, I guess we'll just put a giant queen right below their base. Oops.
Or you do something is like the stronger you get, the more susceptible you are to like counterattacks or sabotage or something like that.
Right.
I think would be
sure.
really cool too.
You could do that. I think that would feel kind of bad because you're like, well, I worked this hard, now we're weaker. But it could balance out. But
like give extra like attention to different weak points or something.
The thing is like with the bartering system, the diplomacy system, you would think that if red team's dominating, blue and yellow team are going to team up on him now.
You would. You know
what I
definitely
mean?
hope so.
So if you give them that option, like nobody wants to lose,
right?
So that's a way you could possibly do it. Is there a way to win this game? Can you take it over everything, or is it just a constant battle for power?
I think that would turn into like, do you reset the servers? You know, like is it seasonal but truly seasonal where you have a full 1 year from January to January or whatever, you know, where it's just like this, you know, that this is going to be a 1 year campaign.
Yeah. That'd be fucking nuts. Crazy.
And then based off of your accolades and how far you've gotten and stuff, like that's
so what you do
how
is
you go into the next one.
It's January to the end of November. Season ends, you know, there's like winners or whatever. And December's just shut down. You just work on the next season, you know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, theoretically, you're working on it the whole year. But that would be crazy because it's like December, you can't even play the game. And everyone's just fucking waiting for next season, you know, wetting their chops, getting that next season. That
would be like just under maintenance for a month.
Yeah.
Because
that's like not enough time where people are like, okay, fuck this. It's just 1 month. It's 30 days to like, fuck, dude, I can't.
I guess it depends.
Maybe it could be.
Yeah.
Maybe you do 2 weeks. I don't know. There would have to be some magic number.
Do you allow for things like double agents and stuff where like maybe somebody goes in and they're in the
we're talking about
team,
a whole other element of the gameplay now.
But then is
as
that
like
how you
as
do
like
it?
A strategist?
I don't know if it would be like a tactician or like someone higher up, but it would be like
that would be fucking crazy if you could infiltrate as a tactician.
Yeah,
send these guys to like what you know is a trap. Oh my god!
But if you could make your way, like honestly, I might roll it back and say, yeah, why not? Because if you can play the part all the way up to a certain point, and then
fuck them,
Do
we want to give that power to the players because you could be the supreme leader of red team and be like, you know, it'd be funny, so I fuck everyone right now.
But
maybe if you put that much work,
would be too
invested,
too hard pressed for keeping their titles.
I don't know. You get one guy on Twitch who's like, hey guys, you want to see me destroy a whole player base?
That's the beauty of it, right? Because if you're on Twitch, there goes your cover. Like you're not gonna, like it's not like you can go in there and do anything about it.
They would know about that. And the thing is like this would work perfectly with our reporting system.
Yeah,
because not only trolls, but you're looking out for spies.
Sure.
And you just fucking kick them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like kill them. That's pretty much what you're doing, right? So that would be interesting. It would work the same way. It would be like a spy thing, right? That's how you'd market it as the report button, but you would obviously use it for trolls as well.
And it could be something too where like every action that you have, and I know we mentioned about like creating the vehicles or your mining or whatever, like every action you have to do that, there's like a right way of doing it. But then almost like Among Us, like you're kind of like faking it where like maybe there's also like a negative way. And if somebody really watches you doing it, they can tell if you're doing it correctly or not.
Well, dude, that's amazing. So it's like I was reading this article the other day like about Normandy, and they had this like fake invasion like up north where they had like blow up tanks and stuff. So like all these all this footage and stuff was fake, and they had like fake radio messages. So you do that where it's like, oh yeah, you can like intercept messages. First of all, that would be sweet. You know what I mean? Like there's the ability to intercept messages and comms, and you fucking send this fake attack to this planet. They're bolstering their defenses there. They think this big thing's coming, so you can like fake that, and then you just hit them at their like capital or something crazy. You know what I mean? Like that would be so cool. Just the mind games that you could get into.
It would be stuff. Like what is the player count? Like what's the
that's what you need a huge player count, right?
Yeah, well, but then how big are these planets? Like, do you want to do a massive just
I
all
would
the players
say
in one world, or do you say like have multi-world?
It would be like a planet, but it would just be like a specific area of a planet. Because if you're thinking about a planet, there would be like a specific goal in mind that you want. So the capital city of that planet, the big refinery of that planet, the heavy resources like a mountainous range that's fortified or whatever. So I think it would just be like a map. You could have maybe different maps on the planet, but I don't think it'd be like you can't have a map that's a whole planet. That's just too much.
But with the power of the PlayStation 5,
the PlayStation fucking 10 maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Like
I don't know, man. Like
a whole planet? That's insane. Unless your planets are really small.
But that's the thing. Like you could have something small and you could have multiples, or you could say you have one, like maybe just it's a miniature like half planet. A planet, but maybe there's things where you're getting air. I mean, you have to be getting airdrops from like the moon or something.
I mean, like obviously these maps are going to be huge, depending. Yeah. But yeah, you could just have like small scaled planets where they wouldn't be like Earth scaled. They would be like Pluto scaled, where like you can traverse the whole. I don't know how big Pluto is, but
it's still probably pretty big.
Is it pretty big? I thought Pluto was pretty small. I mean, obviously it's a fucking planet.
Compared, but yeah.
Anyways, you have like a planet that is traversable, maybe obviously not on foot, but so everything's, I don't know how you'd want to do that.
I would envision a lot of wide open spaces. Like you would typically want like long range stuff.
No, things like that. I agree, but would you have the whole planet? Like, can you just fucking have, I mean, I guess that goes back to your, what the tacticians kind of marking the battlefield as well. Yeah. So you could, that just seems like a lot of wasted space.
It's a lot of wasted space until, it's fully explored. Like you could, as a dev, you could put something in where it's like, hey, there's a hidden cave underground that's just rich with like uranium or something like that.
Sure.
And that's the thing is like, it's wide open. It looks almost desolate. It's very empty, so to speak. Until you start finding these certain pockets of like...
So that goes in hand with like the exploration phase at the beginning of the season where it's like, man, that'd be fucking crazy, dude.
And like, that's just something where like you could do anything. If you want to do a caravan and try to...
Do you do like a truce where it's like there's no combat for the first week or something?
You could try.
You know what I mean?
But you're always going to have people like, say, Nate, who would go in and just be like, no, I'm just gonna kill everyone.
No, I mean like a hard like
a dev.
You put it into the game where it's like you can't attack anyone until X amount of time has passed.
No. I think you hit.
So you can bum rush.
Your pod opens up and you just
go for it.
Go to town.
Well, here's the thing. So I guess you'd have to queue up as a different thing. Like if you want to be a soldier or a miner, or like how would that work then?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, that's part of it, right? Like maybe you don't queue up in the beginning because no one knows or has anything, but maybe as your guild or your faction grows in size and stuff, you unlock things. So like if red team is rushing around and trying to do things, maybe all they can do right now is just mine resources and they don't have any weapons, or maybe they have like a pistol or something that you only have a certain amount of ammo.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is like, once the entirety of the red team mines X amount of resources, now, whoever either mined the most or whoever, like, however we want to design that, they pick a capital on the map. And whoever gets that first gets to pick the capital that they want to put on.
That's crazy.
So now it's this race of initially it's
setting up,
gathering resources. Yeah. Then it's, we have a capital now.
I think we're describing an RTS.
Yeah, part of it,
out, or every aspect of it is playable.
But how cool would that be?
Great.
Where it's just like eventually, like if you get the barracks, now you have the ability to outfit yourself as a soldier if you want.
It sounds amazing. I just don't know. Like, there's going to be people who just want to shoot things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's tough.
But then if there are more people that want to shoot things than there are with like capital cities and different things like that, that's when you bring in the merc groups. And you have people that you can just go in, but you are marked as a threat.
You can
automatically
be a Tusken Raider.
Sure, but then you're marked, and now everybody knows that you are free for all. And now you can go and you can like kill everyone, try to loot their stuff and whatnot. But you have these two massive factions, three massive factions.
It's not going to work.
They
will
all be hunting you. Yeah. So if you want the combat, there you go. I mean, that's the equivalent of putting a Reaper flag on, or that's the equivalent of going. Hot on a PvP thing like on Warcraft or Star Wars or something like that.
Putting the crossbones on for RuneScape or whatever.
Sure.
The wilderness. I don't know how that works. Dude, the RuneScape fans be so mad at me. I've just fucking butchered everything about the game. But the final evolution would be combining our MMO with this game, obviously, where there's this massive war going. It would literally, so I guess Star Wars would be the perfect world to have that.
I think that if this ever comes out, Star Citizen would be
it's not going to be
our
that.
MMO.
Yeah, I mean theoretically that's what they're kind of trying to do. Yeah, I don't think there's a war aspect to it, right? But
there can be.
I mean there can be, but in Star Wars, like the war is a thing, and then because like Star Wars Galaxy, it was like Rebels and the Empire, right? Yeah. So there you go. Like there's your conflict. It would be cool, like in Star Citizen. Like I understand where they're coming from, where conflict arises naturally, But
there's still like a story and stuff with it too. Like you can pick factions and stuff, and like you have pirates and smugglers and things. It's like how much of it do you want to put on the player, and how much of it do you want to put on the developer? And
part of me just wants to like. I mean, if you're gonna go that route, like a Star Wars Galaxy, I would just let the players do what they're gonna do. Like the wars come up naturally, you know.
Yeah.
The guilds come up naturally. Like there's not really factions from the get-go. I mean, that's putting a lot of faith in the players, but as we've seen, the players are going to do what they want to do.
Well, I think that's the thing is like you have to have a clear vision on what you want the players to do, and then you have to make sure that you can.
Do you though? Because like you were saying, is like the players are always going to make something better than the devs imagined.
Well, when I say you have to have a clear vision, I mean like that vision can be the players do everything.
Yeah,
and like they create. But what I'm saying is like if you want players to build cities and not just be a mercenary that just murders everyone, you have to incentivize it. Yeah, that's the main thing.
Right, and that would be the challenging part. Like, why do I want to do this? Why do I want to be a mayor over a bounty hunter? Why do I want to? And that might come down to gameplay, but you have to reward, theoretically the mayor as much as the bounty hunter.
Right, and I think that people will gravitate to the mayorship, or because like you aren't going to have a million mayors, right?
No.
So that's the thing is you have to make it sound appealing to certain people, right? And like that certain mindset.
Yes.
But then I think the way to get people to maybe sign on with a faction versus just being a rogue mercenary that can just do whatever they want is maybe all the best weapons are going to be with a city that is fully functional and everyone's working together, and like you get the upgrades fastest and things like that.
Well, the thing is like, I mean, if it was just natural, the big guilds would have the most resources. So you would have that. Like, even if you didn't put a limitation on what mercenaries can make, the big factions are going to have all the weapons unlocked because they're pooling their resources. That's just naturally going to come up. If you just have a band of a couple mercenaries, that's the difference is exponential.
Yeah, and it comes to like if you look at all the different factions and you say like, okay, who's the number one faction of like red? Cool.
Yeah. Dude, why is red always number one in your world?
I don't know. I like those warm colors. Yeah. So you have red, and then you have like who's number 2 in red. Now, from a leadership standpoint, it's like, okay, do you really want to be number 2 in red, or do you want to be number 1 in blue?
Poach what I mean? People, yeah.
Well, it's not even necessarily poaching people, but it's this idea of like, okay, if there are like 3 different guilds, running, and like maybe it isn't just like the red, yellow, purple, or whatever.
Well, what would? Sorry, go ahead.
But like maybe people could actually like have like, okay, we claim this. Like, think almost like gang war basically. But it's just like, okay, this is the
territory.
Yeah, whatever territory. And maybe it caps, like, right? Like maybe you say like, okay, every planet can have up to 5 nations or 5 factions or whatever.
Yeah, right.
But that's the thing is like if you have 5 guys all going at the same time, like chances are they're going to kind of split off because no one wants to give up that, like they want to be the best, right?
Right.
So you're kind of playing on people's like selfishness, but like not even necessarily the selfishness, but their camaraderie, but with only like their kind of small group and stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. For every cool idea or cool like gameplay mechanic or things that we think would be good,
a million
like,
setbacks.
People are gonna completely tank it by being.
Well, it's not even that. It's just like everything we mention. It's just like technologically, there's a setback.
But
coding wise,
PlanetSide did it. I feel like you could get to that point. I think the tactician thing would be tough.
Tactician, because it's 2 games in one. You're pretty much designing. I mean, we kind of got in the territory of talking about the MMO we created last week, but and smashing those 2 together. But if we're talking about the shooter game, originally, like, and that's why I think Warhammer would be a great universe for that. It's marketable, so that would be more of a draw because like that's an established universe, and the focus is war. That's why I'm a little hesitant when you get into the kind of extra stuff where you're mining and the exploration thing, because I think the focus with that would be the fighting, would be the war aspect, and you kind of get a little bit too much when you start adding those other elements. Don't get me wrong, I think it'd be sweet if you could put those in there, but just balancing the fighting and the tactician, that duality itself would be hard enough, right?
Do you do something instead of like mining and everything? Like everyone is a combatant, right? Like that's going to be like that's the type of game. So let's roll that back and we'll say everyone is like that's what you do in this game.
Yes.
Like all MMOs, you are a fighter.
Well, is this an MMO? Is that what it'd be classified as? I guess.
I think it would have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was Planetside an MMO?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, it was like it wasn't an MMO RPG.
Yeah, MMO shooter. Sure. Yeah. Okay.
But you would have it, but then maybe you pull in something like a Fire Emblem / Advance Wars or something like that, where, based off of the area that you're holding, you get different stat bonuses, right?
Yeah,
so like if you go into like a mine or whatever,
absolutely,
and you raise that flag, maybe it's just a passive like. Just pretend the NPCs are like mining, but maybe
you can have like
maybe
a little,
you have to defend them,
little
right?
animation for it too. Yeah,
like maybe
well, you'd have to have that. You need to have planets that have value,
right?
And different levels of value, so that that's the whole
based
basis
off of what you need or something like that.
It's like Risk, where obviously some countries are more valuable than others, but it's a step further than that because it's not just location based, but it's also resource based. Like this planet gives us X bonus, and it could be interesting where you could have like gas planets that give us X bonus. That's really good, but it has like this drawback where like you need
There's
gas
Thresher
mass
Maws everywhere.
There could be Thresher Maws everywhere. There could be poisonous air, so you need to outfit your guys with the correct resources to be able to breathe there.
But it's like super expensive for that type of suit,
right?
Or something
You'd
like
have
that,
to, anyone you send there without the proper resources, because you'd be in tactician mode, and it's like spend this much to equip your guys. You know what I mean? So that would be like, you know what I mean? So like drawbacks from some places and stuff, which would be interesting.
Man, that'd be. It's ambitious.
Pipe dream.
It's ambitious.
Hey, that's what we're doing here, man. We're dreaming.
Yeah. Do you want to take a quick break? I know we've been talking.
Yeah, let's take a break.
90 minutes of
that was a big one.
Cool.
But we got into it. Cool.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
And we're back. Again, thanks for...
I was checking. We are back, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. I was a little nervous. Tyler was looking at the... what is it called? Transponder?
The clock?
The clock? Yeah. On the setup. The board?
Oh, the
board?
The Zoom,
is that what...
the Zoom machine. The... I don't know.
Not doing good on our sponsor this week, by the way.
The pod... Zoom pod thing 4.
Nice. Anyways... now that we've created
PodTrack 4. I just thought of it. Yeah, Zoom PodTrack 4. It's very good.
Excellent. Thanks for sponsoring us.
Thanks, Zoom.
Zoom. Man, if we could get them.
Is that even a thing?
No, probably not.
Okay.
I was gonna say, did it exist anymore?
I don't think so.
Anyways, now that we've created 2 of the best games of all time in our headspace, we're gonna keep it on the game subject here. As you might have picked up, me and Tyler have this crazy idea of wanting to create our own RPG using RPG Maker.
MZ, I think.
MZ is the one?
Came out in 2020.
Wow, that's recent.
It must be the most recent one.
Fucking sick.
It's looks a lot like MV.
Yeah. Is it like Madden where it's just the same every year? I'm sure there's got to be updates.
It does a lot with the... Not to get into the RPG Maker ins and outs, but it does a lot apparently with layering on maps. It's a little bit nicer on the UI there. So
sure. I mean, we should probably go with the newest one. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There's no point not to. Anyways, I thought it'd be interesting if we kind of tackled, some of our thoughts surrounding, making our own game. That's a big venture, big project to, tackle. So it's gonna be like a slow process, but just to get our mindset on it, kind of splitting it up into separate categories. Mm-hmm. So as I've talked before on the show, one of my favorite, part of storytelling or games, things of that nature, movies or whatever, is the character aspect. Characters. To me, that's what really sells me on things. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. If I'm into the characters, I'm kind of on board, and I can forgive some other things. So I think that'd be a good place to start. Just talking about maybe some of our favorite characters. What kind of things that we're expecting characters to make in our game, like some things we're afraid of, some things, maybe some ideas we want to do, just spitballing. Anything along those lines, if that makes sense.
And then are we talking specifically like RPGs? Or
could be anything, honestly. I mean, why, you can draw inspiration from anywhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, did you want to kick it off, or, I mean...
You can, I don't know where to start, man, even though it was my idea.
I do, so... I was giving a little bit of thought, in the 5 minutes where it's like, hey, this is what we're going to talk about. Yeah. So I think if I'm being honest with myself, and this kind of goes into things like Dungeons and Dragons, or when you're trying to think of stuff, is I love flaws. I think flaws are great.
Absolutely.
So I think any type of flaw is good in a character, provided it's not like an emo cloud, like tough guy.
It's got to be a likable flaw.
It doesn't necessarily have to be likable, but it can be like I'm sick of the I don't care about anyone, like the Han Solo thing. I'm in it for me, kid. That's fine. That doesn't make me necessarily like a character.
Everyone's favorite character is that, though. Yeah,
and I'm not saying that there's not a place for it in there, but I'm sure we will have a character like that.
You have to, right? I mean, just to get the wide range of.
But anything that surprises me, I like. So anything like let's say we have a Han Solo character, and you're always expecting him to either be redeemed or be a nice guy or something like that. Yeah. And then if that character went and did the opposite, I think that would be interesting.
Like he betrays everyone or something?
Either betrays everyone or like trust me, I have a page of ideas written down that we can go into some other but that's the kind of stuff is anything that has not been done before or anything that I'm like,
subverts expectations.
Yeah, it's like I again, not to keep plugging Startup on Netflix.
Startup, yeah.
But there are plenty of times where I'm watching it, I'm just like, oh, okay, I understand where this character is going, or I know what they're going to do here. Oh, this is how this is going to play out.
Right.
And that show keeps completely doing the opposite or changing, or I wasn't even seeing that, and I was like, what?
Yeah, right.
Anytime that happens in a video game, which to be fair it's not often, right? Like you have these tropes in games, especially RPGs, where they're pretty on par. Like if you look at all the different characters in Final Fantasy, I'm not saying that the overarching story like plot points and stuff, they don't have twists and turns and things like that. Yeah. But the characters are pretty one note. Like there's not a whole lot of character growth, more or less. I mean, maybe I'm generalizing it a little too much.
No, I think you're right. I mean, let's say it's kind of interesting in that aspect because you have the main character Cloud who's emo.
Yeah.
But the whole twist of the game puts that on its head kind of. That he's not really himself, So that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, Tifa's kind of straightforward. She's just, super nice and gung-ho and she cares about Cloud. Like that never changes, right? Mm-hmm. Aerith doesn't survive long enough to have an arc.
I just think like she's always this like sweet, like
that doesn't change.
I think it's nice if we can start bringing it like as we talk about characters and things like that. Like I would almost look more towards modern movies, televisions, things like that, where it's just like you're bringing in these characters, and they have these overarching plots and things, but there is some growth. I'm not saying it's just like even Mass Effect, you have these character arcs, but is it really an arc so much as just like here's a story that they do stuff?
Let's look at Garrus.
Sure.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And going back and playing 1, this is our Mass Effect plug again. Check that box.
Super happy we
hit that again. I think it's been every episode.
It has, and it will continue.
It is going to be a thing. So you look at Garrus, and going back and playing 1, this dude was this little like cocky, fuck the book, fuck the red tape. Like I don't understand bureaucracy at all. I want to go off and do what I want, stop the bad guys my way, even if that means being morally gray. And that's a kind of shown in 2 where he picks up where he's just like a mercenary dude just
Punisher.
killing. Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. And he kind of grows, and I haven't played 3 in a long time and I haven't gotten there yet in the remaster, but to this point where he goes back, he's like helping the Turians and stuff, and which is more of an official capacity with the military and stuff. So like he does learn, like Shepard teaches everyone valuable lessons, and his arc is actually pretty good because he starts off as this like young kid who doesn't understand how the world really works and has this really pronounced sense of justice in a very linear fashion where the ends justify the means, things of that nature. And I played Paragon Shepherd, so I was always telling him, like, dude, like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, there's a right way to do stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we can't just kill this guy because he did something wrong. Like, I just saved, I did his, like, side mission in 2. And, like, I saved the guy who, like, turned on his squad or whatever. So, like, it's, like, moments like that, you know what I mean? Where he's, like, he reflects on it. He's like, you know, you're right. Like, I wouldn't have felt better killing that guy.
Does he... And this is mainly because I've never done a Renegade fully, but like, does that character like growth, is that based off of your actions, or is he going to always just have the same dialogue at the end? You know what I mean? Like,
I think the dialogue's definitely gonna be different. I think the
in that moment, but what I'm saying is like when you talk to him on the Normandy, like, does he seem like
different?
Like if you're a renegade, does your actions and you're doing it, does that initial kind of Garrus...
I don't know. I've never played Renegade. You know? I would imagine he probably ends up in a similar place just because of like the story you have to tell. But which
is fine. But then that's what, like, for our game, it's like, okay, well, can we make that person actually be a different person? If honestly, if we had...
And here's the thing, dude. Like not to get too into other aspects, but if we're like focusing really on decisions, dialogue, you know...
Yeah,
you can have like a more linear combat system at the expense of that. You know, you'd have to really pick and choose, because if we're talking about getting crazy, we'd have to have so many trees and different outcomes and things like that that's going to suck a lot of time out of it.
Oh, absolutely. But I think that's also where our strengths lie. And who knows? Maybe we'll have more fun with the combat. I agree. And maybe we flesh it out more.
Find a sick combat system. Like one of my goals, and we're already off topic, but is to find like a turn-based combat system that feels better than the classic. Because like going back and watching you play Final Fantasy VII Original, you see those kind of flaws. And that one was a little different with the ATB gauge, where it's not like classic turn-based,
right? Which I personally don't care for.
You personally don't care for. I know that people do like that because it feels like there's a little bit more urgency in the combat, which kind of like I do like that. And here's why. I feel like if you have an unlimited amount of time, you know, your decision making is going to be perfect. So at that point, it really comes down to stat check, you know, if you're going to beat this guy, or you know his rotation, or his weaknesses, you know what I mean? Like how are you going to outplay someone in a turn-based game if there's not a time factor or some other, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because it's like chess. If you have all the time in the world, you know, you're going to play at a much higher level. I'm not saying you're going to be perfect, but you're going to play at a much higher level. You can see, you know, moves, you can calculate everything. But when there's a timer on chess, you know, and one of the most exciting forms of chess is bullet form, which you have a minute on the clock and you're just fucking making moves, and that's when it gets really crazy and hectic. And I kind of like that. But you know,
I mean, hey, that's valid, right? Like,
do you feel
that's
rushed? Do you feel rushed when there's a bar coming up and like you don't know what to do, and the enemy gets like 2 attacks in a row and things like that?
No, so like I don't care so much about that as long as I can see it, and I think that's the thing that didn't click with me on Final Fantasy. And that's
Grandia,
why
you can't.
Yeah, you can in Grandia. So okay. I think that if I can see all of my moves and understand what each of those moves do and how it affects the bar, like very much like Grandia,
right?
Then that's something that I'm absolutely into.
Right.
But if I just see a bar go up that, like, because there are plenty of times where like the bar goes up, but then my guy's just frozen because somebody else is doing a move.
Yeah.
In my mind, it's like, well, my bar is full. He should be moving. I don't care if somebody's attacking me at the same time. We should be attacking at the same, like, at each other.
And this gets to like, I mean, we're gonna be limited by like what we can do.
Oh yeah, we can't do that. No, it's not.
That would be so cool though.
Yeah,
like where you clash in the middle or something, and maybe it cancels it out or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be interesting though. I do like that. But anyways, to kind of bring it back to the character thing, I will say what you were talking about before, subverting expectations specifically.
Yeah.
Now, you have to be careful. Like, I'll play devil's advocate a little bit here, where you have to be careful with that, because immediately my mind goes to Star Wars Episode 8.
Okay.
Rian Johnson wanted to subvert your expectations, and he did. Does
Sure.
that mean it was good? No.
Right.
It was so, in my opinion, just awful.
My only counter to that is whatever we make is not going to be a beloved, like a 20-year beloved, 40-year beloved franchise.
But
so
you could see it so clearly where it's like, oh man, you think Luke's going to do this? Fuck you. He's going to do that. Oh, like we set up, specifically we set up to have a question, like J.J. Abrams set up as a question, who are Rey's parents? Like they're obviously going to be important. And then he said, fuck that. Rey's parents are nobody. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It was literal things where it was like, the first movie set things up, and the second movie said, "Oh, we're going to shock you with this," and you know what I mean? Yeah. It's just you got to be careful with that.
I think that you can have something because, like, you have these games that it's like, okay, well, we want a twist.
Yeah.
Who knows what that's going to be? It could be small, it could be large, it could be multiple twists, it could be double twist. Like,
I think you have to at some point. It'd just be too boring.
But in order to
unless
do
the twist is there are no twists.
It's just happy.
It's as straightforward as you could possibly make.
There's no evil in the world. Everyone's this is heaven. Actually, everything's perfect.
Wow.
But that's the thing is like how do you do that? What is that? What does that look like? And instead of having one big twist that maybe we telegraph or we allude to in the beginning, it's just like a wink. So if you ever replay the game, you're like, oh my God, they told us this entire time.
I love that, by the I go to Shutter Island. You ever see that?
No.
Oh, you never watched Shutter Island?
With Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah, and Mark Ruffalo?
Yeah, never saw it.
You need to watch that.
I will watch it.
4-hour RPG. You need to watch that. That is the best movie in terms of the first time you watch it is completely different than the second time you watch it.
Okay.
And it's very it's
Sixth Sense.
Very Sixth Sense. But it's so good. It's in my top 5 the whole time.
Wow.
Yep. It's in my top 5.
Well, then I have to. I'll watch it.
You need to watch that.
Cool.
And that's the thing, man. We can draw inspiration from anywhere.
Well, I think that's part of it is I know we were talking about playing more RPGs. Which I think we should, right? Like
yes,
that's
absolutely.
good to understand. And
we are. Like I'm playing Grandia in
a week.
A week.
It's so close.
I'm so excited.
Yeah,
it's gonna be real. Maybe
good.
It'll fucking suck.
Maybe.
Hey,
you might hate it.
IGN, and they know everything.
They
said that it was better than Final Fantasy VII.
It is better than Final Fantasy VII.
That's what they said.
I personally want to play through 6.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
what were you telling me about Octopath?
That was Kyle playing Octopath, and he liked it. Octopath, it was a hit or miss for me.
Because I was telling you we should get a list of games RPGs we want to play, and then you said something.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said Chrono Trigger.
Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, like if you say like best RPGs of all time, Chrono Trigger
comes
up usually in the top.
And 3. You haven't played that?
I've never played it.
Yeah, we'll have to hit that one.
Yeah, I mean they had a lot of issues with the port. I know. I went back actually on Steam like 2 days ago and checked it out, and everyone's saying it's like fine. Like they went back and
that's good news.
So.
Yeah. Anyways, characters.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is like the two things are, one, if it subverts my expectations, that's awesome.
Yes.
The other kind of side of that coin is if a character acts exactly how I would act, or something along those lines. Like if they make a decision or they say a line that's almost word for word what I'm saying in my mind. Clicks with me. I'm just like, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which then gets to your idea of like, okay, as we write these characters, like obviously, like our thoughts and feelings and opinions will come through there.
I'm sure you and I will be in the game somewhere,
right?
Or
like an Easter egg, or
through multiple
like
people, or something. You know what I mean? Like I feel like any artist,
you put your mark on
does
it.
that. Yeah, I mean,
for sure,
because that's the easiest.
But that's the thing is, and this was one of the things that I was like, thinking about and like worried about, anxious about things like that. But like we need other perspectives. We need other opinions.
Yes, and
we talk about like diversity in different races and sexuality and all that stuff. Like if you want to make all these different expansive characters, again, like keeping it within the story, not as like a token thing or just something like that, but like
that's
actually
the important thing.
Weave it in.
Yeah.
That's going to be like the
challenge, because we have a very specific perspective on life, and I'm sure in terms of the whole world, ours are kind of similar, very similar, I would say. Mm-hmm. Grew up in the same part of the world, a lot of the same kind of things. So that would be a challenge. But yeah, absolutely, we're going to get a bunch of people in.
Yeah,
see what, like get their thoughts.
That's really what I'm most excited about. Like, I mean, I know we're gonna bring up like RPG Maker, hit the randomize button on the character thing, and just start saving out.
I can't.
People.
Well, I have so many ideas. Like, we're gonna do that. I thought of an idea. I was in the car riding home, listening to Chopin.
Okay, as one does.
Piano. It was one of his piano pieces.
He cut his ear off, right?
No.
Okay,
but that would be tough for a musician. That's a little different. Anyways, I was like, dude, I want to have Tyler close his eyes, play this for him, and he tells me what character he's thinking of or what setting comes to mind when he listens to this, and then we just play with that.
That'd be sick.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just completely auditory.
Yeah.
And something comes.
That would be a super interesting like exercise.
Exactly.
And things like that.
Maybe it suck. Maybe we just scrap it, but it'd be interesting. Like, you pick a piece, the other person listens to it. Here's the character I see. Here's the place I see. Here's the scenario I see going on. You know what I mean? That would be really interesting.
See, that's the thing is like, so again, for this past week, I've just been at lunch. Like, my thing is I'm taking an hour at lunch and I just go walking around the complex, right?
Yeah.
So there are like, I would say 99% of my ideas like this past week have just been as I'm walking, just in my own head, thinking of like different things that I think would be cool, or I'm listening to a podcast and they mention something and like I literally pause the podcast to like write a note in my phone of like, oh, wouldn't that be sick if XYZ happened in a game and stuff. I
love it.
But that's the thing is like, characters are going to be such a huge aspect to it. But I think for us, because we love the characters and we love the stories and we love all kind of those that, the dialogue trees and the intricacies of who's related to who and everything. Like, that's, I feel, where we're going to spend a ton of time up front.
Yes.
But then maybe that's something unique to our game where like every single character to an extent is important. Like, you're not just going to have like town guard. You're going to have like a named person.
And only if you get into it.
Right.
Where he could be a town guard. Like, what about this? Like, his name, and again,
it's town guard until you
it's
talk
town
to him
guard
enough,
until you get a
Yeah.
relationship level enough with him.
Yeah.
Where he's Gary.
Yeah. And that would be
two
amazing.
kids.
Sure.
Yeah. With a wife who left him.
Yep.
And we don't know what happened to her.
I would love to get to the point where like you can start giving like, throughout the thing, like if you give Gary a scarf and then like suddenly his character portrait like has the scarf on, he's just wearing it and stuff like that.
That
like,
would be tough. That would be tough. But
but
that'd be
that's
cool.
the kind of thing is similar to what you said with like the combat and things like that. Like, like the game has to be fun, but if we go in the opposite direction of necessarily gameplay per se, but if we just make the world so lovable and alive, and not lovable that everything's all goody two shoes, but lovable that like people just love spending time and interacting. Yeah, that'd be incredible.
And a part of the way you do that is having the world feel alive. Is when you have events happen that your characters are doing, people are talking about it. NPCs. I love that when that's in games where something big happened and you go back to the town and the dialogue's different. They're like, did you see that? Or I heard you guys did this, or that was crazy, or whatever it is. I don't know.
And that's the challenge, is to make them always like interact, like short of programming an AI to respond every time you try to talk to somebody. Like that's going to be
we're
tough,
talking
right?
about
like,
hours.
Yeah. But
hundreds of hours.
But that's what I'm excited for.
Of just like every scenario we can think of.
Yeah.
It does excite me too, because let's be honest, it's not going to be a AAA game, obviously. So you need to have your focus in things that you can control well, and dialogue would be one of those things, because dialogue in this game isn't going to be like, words aren't going to change from a AAA game to our game. That's something you can really, obviously we don't have voice acting, or maybe very minimal, or I don't know how that even works, but
yeah,
that's something that can be done really well, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? The dialogue. And if it is done well, people will appreciate that, even though it's just an RPG Maker game.
And it's going to be tough to write characters like, I know we talked about diversity and stuff, but like even to write characters like as a bad guy, or as like this gruff person, or just like channeling. And I guess that's part of being an actor too. Like whenever people are doing like different roles and stuff like that, it's like you have to channel these kind of places that maybe you don't necessarily want to go down. But like, how do you write something like racism, or how do you write something where like that that's going to get very
that's tough,
dicey and stuff that I'm worried about, where it's just like, you know, if we have that in the game, of just like these prejudices or people like, oh, I hate orcs, so I'm going to treat them like trash if we have orcs in the game or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff where it's going to be, it's tough because for it to be believable or for it to be genuine, like you're going to go to a pretty like dark place.
Yeah.
Where, you know, you want it to be impactful, but then it's going to feel very awkward, like writing that stuff and talking through it and stuff too.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's something I haven't really thought about, but that'll be tough. We'll have to see, you know, how that goes.
Yeah, I mean,
I've never experienced something like that, so I honestly don't know. What I think would be really interesting is like I would love getting Nate, you know, having him come over.
Sure, yeah.
He's the master at telling you how he's going to beat the game.
Right. Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's a tool that we have where it's like, oh, dude, like this is so exploitable. Or if I was the bad guy, I would do this. You know, like you have Nate as the bad guy, and man, he's going to be a fucking chess master. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's going to be making some crazy plays against your party, like doing some crazy, you know, things that might surprise you. You know,
it's weird too because we would have to give like understanding the characters and understanding like we're going to obviously be drawn to certain characters more than others, and
but we need to give the love to, you know. Not just because like I hate that
as smooth as possible because
I don't like that because you can, it's very obvious.
Yeah, like if you know whoever's writing, like go back to Mass Effect, is like whoever's writing like Miranda is like, oh no, we want you to romance Miranda.
Want you,
like,
exactly,
to, like, do that. Yeah. So to make that open ended while keeping it interesting, keeping it where, you know, if somebody loves X party member,
you know, they have their moment in the sun. Yeah, now it's never going to always be equal. And I think that's okay, actually. Like, I think it's okay where maybe someone's backstory is straightforward. Not everyone has to be really complicated. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that the complication comes in where, you know, depending on how big the party is, and like this is something where, given how much we love this stuff, like maybe the party members become like maybe you can have a massive party to choose from, possibly.
Interesting.
Maybe we have different aspects where it's like, no, you have to go to this city to recruit somebody. You can't just like flip to them or whatever.
Sure.
Like maybe you have to go an extra mile to do something. Or honestly, like, and this doesn't happen too much, but it's like maybe a person leaves your party, you know, for whatever reason.
I was just thinking that too. Like maybe they have some external factors where they just have to.
Yeah. Like choices you make, maybe inter party disputes or something like that. Like you have to pick between them. Like there's plenty of things that we can do to add drama or like ability and stuff. One of the game, not to jump on one of my ideas, but I would love to do something where it's like, you know, eventually like you're gonna have to choose between like your two party members, right?
Yeah, like a Mass Effect thing.
Exactly. Yeah, but again,
except they don't both suck.
Well, hey, I mean, maybe they don't both suck, or maybe, you know, the character or like the player is like, okay, no, I hate this character, I like this character, or whatever, and you choose.
Sure.
I would love it to be like, okay, I'm going to choose Ashley, and then Ashley just dies, just straight up. So it's like we're asking you to make that choice.
Yeah.
Now that wouldn't be every time. And we mix it up and stuff. But when you're talking about subverting expectations, I think
you think people would be pissed at that.
They would be extremely pissed, but if done correctly, my argument to that
is if you were paying attention, you can tell.
I wouldn't even say that because you're like, I'm trying to take out the game part of it, right? So imagine if you're like, okay, hey, we're going to save Ashley.
Okay.
We try to do that. She ends up dying. So now not only the character that you wanted died,
right,
but now you open up this entire
like I'm chose to leave me.
But that's the thing, is I'm going to call it a flawed relationship.
Oh man!
But I find that way more interesting because, like, I mean,
you have to do that right.
Oh, I know.
You have to. You have to be very delicate with that. It has to be a situation where your character really believes that this is going to save them.
Sure.
You know, obviously.
Or you do it for whatever,
and it makes sense, and something goes fucking wrong. And you know, because if a player. You have to think about it from the player standpoint. If they're like, okay, pick this, and then they fucking died. If it doesn't make sense, if it doesn't, you know, they're gonna be fucking pissed and be like, that's sloppy.
Yeah.
But if it does make sense where it's like, that was the best plan to save this person and shit hit the fan and, you know, something happened that we knew the risk. This was like their best percentage chance to live and they didn't, you know what I mean?
Right.
So we got bad intel. We got,
or you do something they both survive. And
right.
And you still have that
but you
thing.
still, yeah, that's interesting.
Where the one person knows.
Fuck, you pick them over me.
Right.
Yeah.
So now.
And it depends who is in that spot. Like maybe you have the 2 squad members. Like if we're talking strictly Mass Effect, and it could be any 2 squad members you have on Vermeer, and you have to pick between those 2. And the person you didn't pick, depending on who that is resilient enough to be like, hey, you had to make a call. Like, we're still good. Like, I understand how hard that is. And maybe if they're more fragile, like, dude, fuck you. Like, you chose to leave me. You know what I mean? So,
or if it's like a mercenary class, they're just like, oh, I see where I'm
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, boom. Yeah. Okay.
So
this isn't worth it.
You still lose the character, but then maybe they come back later on and you're fighting them, or maybe you know, they hold a grudge, or they question you at every step. Like,
the thing I was thinking about, you know, just talking about party members leaving is like, you have a party member who has a kid, and let's say you succeed with a mission X and save the kid. There was an attack on this kid because the bad guy was trying to get to him or something, and you beat that mission. His kid's safe, but he's like, fuck, my kid's in danger. He's gone. He has to leave the party.
Right.
Let's say you fail that mission and the kid dies. He doubles down. He's on your party. It's like, we're going to fucking get this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like interesting where it's like, you failed, but you get to keep this guy. Maybe that's your fucking favorite guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like a interesting dichotomy.
Super interesting, for sure. I was thinking about too, like, I mean, how often would be like we had that list of like RPG tropes and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Head roll of like, okay, you're waking up your kid and your mom or dad is like, wake up. What if you do things like that where it's like, again, subverting expectations, where you have a character and you have this kid and you're going through and you do like a whole, maybe the first mission or something, and eventually they like die or something, and then the real game is actually you're playing as their parent, either avenging them or doing something like that.
Interesting.
Like, kind of like that bait and switch.
Yeah.
It'd be the same thing where like the classic, okay, you're the hero and blah, blah, blah. The whole world revolves around you. It's your story.
Yeah.
But what if, you know, like as you're going through and you're playing, like you eventually find out that no, it's this other person in your party that is actually like the god or the hero
that's interesting.
Or something like that.
Yeah. I've actually... There was this one anime I was watching.
Of course. But see, this is the thing is like, has it already been done? You know,
it has, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. Because this anime was kind of average. It wasn't anything amazing, actually. Sure. Because this is a kind of tough thing to do, where you're following what you perceive to be the main character. And he pretty much dies right before like the last big battle. And you find out that his party mate is like actually the main character. She's the chosen one, and things like that. And she's the one and she has a lot of screen time and stuff. But you just think it's like, oh man, that's the cool side character, that we all like. And this is the fucking lame main protagonist with all the tropes. And then you're like, oh wait, like this is, you know, she was actually the main character. Like that was interesting.
I love that idea of just like, and that's what I mean with subverting expectations, where it's like it still plays into different tropes and you can still have that, but it's like it's keeping the player guessing and invested
on their
always
toes,
looking for everything.
And that's how you get someone invested. And now here's the thing, it obviously it all comes down to execution.
Sure.
Right, like, you know, anything, the most simple idea executed well can be amazing. And the most complex, interesting idea executed poorly can be awful.
Sure.
So you can have something like, you know, what would it be like to play the game as the side character? Can that even work if you do it well enough? You know what I mean? Like, you're not the chosen one. Your party member is the chosen one, but you're playing as his, you know, bro or something.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, like, if you start out knowing that you are not the chosen one,
right?
Would you expect to have some twist somewhere in the game that then, because like in the back of your mind,
at some point I will be the chosen one.
Yeah,
I will
like
take over.
We're programmed to believe like, well, no, it's a video game. I am the chosen one.
Yeah.
So that would be super
the
interesting.
The ego is so big.
Yeah, like it would be super interesting from a gameplay perspective to never have that pan out. But then, like you said, like if done correctly, maybe that's kind of like that is the aha moment of like, no, you have to support this person.
And I always so going back to I talk about the RPG I played as a kid.
Yeah.
In that one, it was kind of interesting because you kind of find this guy towards maybe the beginning of the game, like a little bit in, like maybe 25% in, who is the stereotypical main character. He's badass. He's like, super strong. And, and it even tells you, it's like, I am the chosen one, like blah, blah, blah. And then you get to the end of the game. It's like, now you are. I kind of like that aspect of it too, where like, if you were writing stereotypical main character, he's in there and he thinks he's the one, but you're kind of the one more normalized, or maybe you have more flaws or something like that. And then you find out at the end, like in that game, it was like, there's like this holy armor or something, like only the chosen one could wear, something like that. Pretty generic, but you were the one who could wield it, and not him.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit subverting as well.
As long as it gives time for payoff. Like I think that it's like if you find out that you are the chosen one and the other guy isn't, rather than just that being at the end, you have this big final battle and that's it. And he's like, oh, I guess you were the chosen one all along, huh? Like it needs to be something where like you find that out and then there's plenty of like, for lack of a better term, like downtime for him to grapple with that. And like, how does he handle it? Like
here's interesting. So here's the flip side of that.
Yeah.
In Final Fantasy VII, Cloud thinks he's the main character the whole time.
Sure.
Yeah. And then he finds out he's not who he thinks he is. And you still have the third act.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that does that well. I mean, it's kind of the same thing, reversed kind of.
Yeah.
Because in that game, like Zack, the guy who is his buddy who dies before he is the main character, theoretically. You know, he's the badass soldier guy who Cloud thinks he is. That's why, you think Cloud's the main character.
Right.
So it's like,
or just do something where you just kill the main character off. Like what RPG does that? And I'm sure there is one. I just don't,
but it's like fundamental storytelling. Can you do that?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't work, but
or is it something where like that's part of it where, you go through this entire game, you as a main character die, and then like that's halfway through, and then the rest of the game is them trying to resurrect you, or
I feel like that sounds familiar. I can't think of it
again. That's one of my biggest fears is like any idea we have has been done in some sort of
but
fashion.
Here's the thing, man, it's like I don't think we can go in with that mindset, because if you're doing that, you're just going to end up with something that's just craziness.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying limit ourselves, saying like, oh, that's cool, but it's been done before, so we're not going to do it.
Things are going to be done before.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like Star Wars redid itself. Like that's something where it's true. Like, no, we can
a little bit on the nose, but
we can tell our own story and still get that that reaction, because the combination of great ideas or something should be like unique to us.
And the thing is, like, the same stories have been told forever.
Yeah,
since the beginning of time.
Absolutely.
Lord of the Rings has been told before,
right?
Believe it or not.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can't base it off that. Everything has its own unique flavor. We got to put our touch on it. You know what I mean? Which I think we can do, because we have pretty unique, interesting perspectives. I would like to believe, but characters.
Sorry, going back to like, go ahead.
Do you have a favorite character of all time? Does anything come to mind when I just say favorite character? Does anything pop into your head?
No.
So for me, instantly, maybe I'll use something that you can relate to more.
Sure.
Something like Breaking Bad with Walter White.
Mm-hmm.
What an interesting character.
Yeah. Oh, I think there are plenty of interesting characters. Like, you say like favorite character. I go to people like Jack Sparrow.
Sure.
Right. Like, but just an iconic character.
He's great.
Super flawed.
So flawed. So charismatic.
Right.
Like, name a more charismatic character than Jack's. But like, everyone roots for him.
Yeah.
And that's a great performance by Johnny Depp.
I guess my thing is like, do I have this character where I'm like, I'm going to tattoo them on my chest, I love Batman, but do I think Batman's a good character?
He has to be.
Does he?
Would he be that popular if he wasn't a good character?
That's what I guess that's the thing I struggle with is like, a lot of the things that like what constitutes a good character. I thought the Joker was cool until like they did him to death and they made him so mentally.
Comics are a little
like
different,
anguished and stuff. Yeah,
where there's a bunch of different versions.
right.
But Mark Hamill's Joker is.
Well, I mean, that's the best Joker.
Sure. You know what I mean? So if we're talking about that specific version.
But even
it's one of the best villains.
One, they went down a darker path. Did the Killing Joke, and he did the voice of that. And even the Arkham games are still way darker.
Right.
Like
more
Arkham,
gritty, more realistic
stuff. Yeah.
So maybe comics are a bad example.
It could be, but that's where all the characters are, right? Like that's where a ton of characters are.
I watch anime, so
yeah, but also I mean, still cartoons characters. Like, but I guess what I'm saying is like the thing that stands out are these non-main characters usually.
Yeah, right. Like there's side guy, like Han Solo, who's everyone's favorite. Yeah. Orin, is that his name from Final Fantasy X?
Orin, yeah.
Orin,
yeah, sure.
He's the coolest guy ever.
Yeah,
he's not the main character.
Like Red 13,
Red 13,
sure, whatever.
Great,
like Garrus,
name a thing. Like the side character is always the cool guy. So Garrus is the best.
But can we get to a point where you have? Because I would say maybe the coolest kind of main character, maybe Geralt, maybe
Geralt. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's interesting. So you can't really think of like a character that really comes to mind as maybe one of your favorites.
As a primary, it's like,
does anything come to mind where it's like, this is just a really well done? I mean, you said Jack Sparrow. That's a good. I think that's a great example.
Yeah. And I guess he turns into like he's the main character, but I would argue in the movies from that, not to end up Pirates of the Caribbean too.
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, well, like technically he was a side character. I understand that it was he stole the show for sure, but
he wasn't the chosen one.
Yeah, it was Will
Turner,
right? Like so.
But this is what I want. I want us to get into like why, Well,
I guess my question is like, okay, if we know that like everything you said, like he's charismatic, he's likable,
I mean, the biggest thing for me with him is he's the underdog. He's the silly. He's the fool.
He's failing into victory.
Yeah, and that's charming. That's likable. Like he's very likable.
Yeah,
people root for him.
I mean, Sid berates women and things like that, and somehow he's
very likable.
I don't
that might have to do with that he just fucks people up in combat. That's always an aspect of it too.
That's part of it. But
like if someone's really sweet in combat, people might just like I've actually thought a lot about that. Like, are there I'm sure there are characters out there that are just fucking insane in the gameplay. Yeah. And then those are the favorite characters, so they may not be written well. But
that's the thing. Like Sid does not hold. Like I mean, there are some cringe moments there. Like I just want to throw it out there.
I'm curious what they do in the remake. How they handle that,
right?
Yeah.
But that's a prime example of like him being very abusive.
Yeah,
it was just like as a kid, I'm sure no one
might be funny because you don't really understand what's going on.
Yeah. But like in today's day and age, it's like, ooh, no,
yeah, it's
like,
a little rough.
So it's like, if you're writing these characters, like you can have characters like that, and that's what makes them memorable and flawed and terrible and things like that. But
I would say Final Fantasy, like you might think they're all linear, but they're all memorable.
I would, I would say so
for the most part.
Sure,
even Yuffie.
I don't think it has
fucking
to be
hater.
Like, yeah, but there is some circumstance around that. But like, I think that it doesn't have to be. Like you said earlier, it doesn't have to be this like big aha, like this character has so much dialogue or anything like that. They can be that character.
There's such thing as too much.
Yeah, like you can have a private person that just doesn't want to talk to you, and I think that like even that if you have somebody that's this like emo is not the right word, but like very reserved and like maybe dark person, where like every time you talk to him, they just say something that's
closed in and
like super like really dark humor or something like that.
Sure.
But that could be a character, and that could be a memorable character that people would
like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you need to you need to have something for everyone, I guess, or there should be something for everyone where like you have such a diversity in expression and characters.
As long as everyone can get seen, I think the challenge is like, do I want just a white male hero protagonist as our main character?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't personally. Like, if I'm just thinking about it, I know a lot of developers, like there was a year where like every protagonist was just a female, right? Like that was just something that it was like they just did that with like Aloy and everyone.
Yeah.
Like Tomb Raider. But I would love to find that main character that is completely unique. But the challenge with that is how, like, we would have to bring somebody in to
see, that's
write
tough
for
because,
that.
dude, we're two white guys.
Absolutely.
So if we make a black female main character,
you can't do that.
That's going to be tough.
Or you have to bring someone in, which, like I could
but
think
if it's
of
the main character,
immediately, but
everything, that's the whole, like, it's always going to be.
We couldn't pay them, so it would just be,
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's tough. But here's the thing, dude. If the character's good, it doesn't matter who they are. They're just good.
Yeah,
there comes a point where it's just a good character.
I agree with you to an extent, for sure. I think my thing is, as long as we have, again, diversity, where I'm not saying we have a checklist and we have to hit every single race, sexual orientation, things like that. But what I'm saying is, like, as long as we can, like, represent and people can identify with a character, but then identify with, like, similar to what I was saying, where, like, oh, okay, this character is speaking exactly how I'm thinking or whatever.
Right.
And I identify with them. I like that as a character.
Yeah.
You need that to be unique with someone that we bring in. So if you bring in a black female, I need, if I have a black female friend that's playing this game, she needs to be like, yes, this is exactly how I would approach a situation.
Sure.
Or at least can identify with that that aspect. And I think that's super important.
Yeah, that makes sense. You need to hit a wide range of things, and not just race. I mean, that's part of it, but just attitudes, just what's the word I'm looking for? Like, people making decisions and stuff like that. Like you were saying, like, that's a decision I would make. And
you have to have, like, the crazy thing is, like, you have to have like ranges too.
Yes,
like it's because RPGs, especially like the older ones, where you have like a set character number, or you have just these things where, like, they have to be like, I am the mercenary. This is how I am the entire time.
Right.
Like, that can get exhausting. Where, like, all the areas of gray, all the nuance you can have, where you can have two characters, maybe they're brothers, and maybe they're fairly similar in ideology or thoughts, or whatever.
Yeah.
But one guy cracks more jokes, and the other one's more serious, or one guy, and like you have like similarities across different party members, and maybe. Whenever you have to come to a critical moment in the game and, like, votes are being taken and stuff, you can kind of understand how each person votes that's, faithful to how they've been, going this entire game.
Yeah, that's definitely important.
That's important.
Yeah, being faithful to, like, because there's nothing worse than when you're watching something and you're like, that character wouldn't do that. Right. When you get to that point, like, early on, you can get away with it because you're still finding out who these people are.
Right.
But then you get to a certain point where it's like, wait, they wouldn't do that. That's the worst thing you want someone, like an audience member, to say.
Or they do something out of character, and it's doing it right, but you have to do it in such a way that, like, okay, they did that out of character, that's puzzling, but then you pay it off later on, where, okay, they went really crazy, where it's just like, oh no, we're storming this camp right now and we're rescuing all of these prisoners because at one point they were imprisoned, or their parents were imprisoned, like, whatever. Right. Like that kind of
it's execution. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. You can definitely, and that, that's great as well. Talk about subverting expectations. That's a great way to do it, where you kind of give that context later on. There's that aha moment. I know you were talking about that before when we were just talking about whatever. Right. Having those moments are so important when you're like, the dots are connected and things of that nature. And along those lines, when we're talking about, like, plot twists and stuff, I think, it's okay if people figure it out early. Sure. Sometimes I feel like people want everyone to be surprised. Nobody can figure this out. I want them to be shocked. I think it's okay, because people like when I knew it. You know what I mean? There's that. And I think, like, I never watched Game of Thrones, but it seemed like the last season was a lot of that, where it's like, oh, you thought this? Well, fuck you. It was that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Is that kind of the consensus of?
There were polls. I don't think anyone got it exactly right at work. Like, I thought the not to go on a Game of Thrones thing. Like, I think I was expecting they played a little safe. Right. I want to say,
okay,
which
sure.
in all honesty, maybe that was
obviously
kind
not.
of the
like
the
pretty
big,
not liked ending, right?
Right. But what I'm saying is, like, maybe that was the big twist. Is they just, oh no, this is pretty dull.
Okay.
Overall,
I guess the point I'm making is there's definitely been things where it's like, well, you thought this was going to happen. I can't allow that now because everyone thinks this is going to happen. You know, like fan theories, things like that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's okay if they figure it out. If a fan theory is true, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And obviously, I mean, that goes to sequels, but even in a game where you're like, oh man, I bet he's the bad guy, or I bet he's going to betray us, and like, you know, someone figures that out, you don't have to have it super buried and come out of nowhere. You need the context along the way. You need those little pieces of evidence, I guess, to be in there where you can figure it out.
I love the idea of having this really sleazy, super friendly guy.
Okay.
That you're just like, oh, he's going to betray the hell out of us.
I know exactly who I'm thinking of. It's in an anime. He's so like fake politician, nice to everyone, and everyone fucking hates him. It's so funny because pretty much what's happening in that part right now is like the head guy, like the president, okay?
Sure.
Passes away. This is a great anime, by the way. It's called Hunter x Hunter. So like the president guy dies in this epic battle. It's so sweet. Anyways, so they're trying to vote for who. There's this committee that he appointed that was like under him, and they need to pick who the next president's going to be, essentially.
Okay.
So everyone's in this room and they all kind of like don't get along, which is really hilarious. There's like a bunch of tension in the room, but this guy walks in, everyone fucking hates him. He's like the nicest guy ever, but you know, he's just being super fake.
Yeah.
So that's immediately what I think of is like, he's so transparent, and you learn that everything he does has like an ulterior motive, and he's just like a politician, like the classic lie to your face, always smiling, really handsome guy, you know, like anyone on the outside would be like, oh man, what a nice guy. But like, you just know deep down, he's got some fucking nefarious.
But to subvert expectations, like what if it was just like, no, he's just really that nice.
You could, yeah, you could.
That's unbelievable. A guy can be that nice.
Yeah.
Like, no, he's fine.
Well, you could do the double fake where it's like, oh, he's a piece of shit. And then it's like, well, he's got a really good reason for it.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just like, I don't care. You know what I mean? You run into that sometimes.
Or you do something where, like, with a double fake where it's just like, you think he's going to betray you, and then he actually saves your life, and you're just like,
well,
oh,
dude, with this one, it was like, so what he does is he does all these stunts and stuff to rig the election and do all these fucking things to get himself elected. And then he wins. He fucks everyone over, just real sleazy, like technically legal, but you know, he's a fuckhead for doing it. So he gets elected, and then he goes to the number 2, like this chick who's like, eventually everyone like rallies behind. Like I was saying before, like everyone doesn't really like each other. There's a lot of tension, but they all rally behind this one chick, and they're like, okay, you're the only one who could beat him, so we're gonna support you.
Right.
And at the end, he wins, and he walks out to the hallway and goes up to her. He's like, yeah, I resign. It's all you. Like, I just wanted to fucking win. So he's like, it was so good. It's just like fucked everyone over. And he's just awesome. Like, yeah, it was just for his own like enjoyment or whatever. Yeah. Like, he's just a sick fuck.
See, that's the kind of like, oh man, I absolutely cannot wait for us to, it would take a day. It would take multiple days, but like, it would be like a whole day of us just sitting here and just coming up with
brainstorming
so many.
I can't wait for those sessions. You talk about the whiteboard where you just fucking anything, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just whatever we think of, just put it up on there. I can't wait for that. But yeah, it's gonna be pretty crazy, dude. I don't even know. I guess like just kind of hearing like your thoughts about characters in general. Mm-hmm. I guess it's like, if you're talking about game design, is that not very high up on your list in terms of like what's important to you?
Oh, game design is extremely important to me. I think when we talk through,
or game elements, I should say.
Yeah, like when we're making our own, game. Obviously, we're limited by our expertise in terms of like programming or the software or something like that.
Exactly.
I think that we can. It depends on what we want to go down. I think setting, story, characters, all of that we're more or less good with, right?
Right.
Eventually you have to get to like mission structure and dialogue trees and things like that. Again, I think overall we'll be good doing the outlines and putting all that stuff together. I think as far as game elements go, we just talked about friggin' PlanetSide spin-off thing. Like I don't think we ever have an issue there. I think that
well, if anything, it's going to be our heads are bigger than what we're capable
and
of.
That's why it's like, can we water it down? Can we? Because like a lot of this stuff, like even when we were talking about just like game art and stuff, like our towns in RPG Maker are not going to look good whenever we're just using the stock stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like we need to get other people involved, other artists and things. So that's all very tough. And then when you're talking like game elements, you can do a lot in RPG Maker, but it is very old school looking.
Yeah.
And they're a dime a dozen, right? Like anyone can put that out and you can make a million of them.
Right.
So it's like, how do we set ourselves apart on there? How do we interact with like the world? Like, you can make it where there's no random encounters. It's very tough to do.
Yeah.
But like you can do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I care about the gameplay, and like I'm the first one to say I hold gameplay above, everything. But
really, okay.
Yeah, but in a game like an RPG Maker, I feel like you kind of know, like you know what you're getting into. I think.
What would your hierarchy of aspects of games be? Like gameplay, characters, environment.
I think gameplay is always first.
Okay.
I think I would probably say setting in a larger sense. So like we've talked about
the
this.
World, you're saying?
Yeah, like
or just like the actual visuals.
Honestly, I would say both,
hand in hand.
Yeah,
okay,
because
sure.
it's weird because I like space and futuristic stuff more.
Yes,
generally speaking, more than like a cityscape or more than like high fantasy.
Yep.
That being said, they're also typically dull, right? Like you're just going down like gray corridors because everything's so white and clean and things.
Sure.
So that's kind of like a little hypocritical thing is like, oh, I like this. I like the idea of futuristic stuff, but I don't like running around in the environment. Meanwhile, you can have something like Biomutant is gorgeous. I just don't enjoy the gameplay, so it's this kind of weird thing. And like honestly, Outriders has some of the really good environments.
Yeah.
And the gameplay was there.
Right.
And the characters sucked. So it was like,
yeah,
I don't know. But I think that if you're talking like open world and stuff, I think traversal is extremely important. I want to have fun going around and exploring.
Yep.
So when I say environments, I'm thinking like, so it goes like gameplay, like that's number one.
Yep.
Then I would say setting, and then it would be like more of like exploration and like is something rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't particularly like Zelda Breath of the Wild, right? Like there are a lot of different gameplay elements that I just did not like, and the performance wasn't there for me.
Okay.
But the exploration and the setting and everything, the environments were there because they really, really made, like more than any other game, to my knowledge, that I've played, rewarded exploration and just kind of going after that cookie crumb trail of like, oh, I see that thing sparkling in the distance. I'm running over to it, and it's rewarding 100% of the time.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff. And then it gets to characters basically supporting all of that.
Sure.
Which I know is crazy for me, loving like Mass Effect and stuff. And
that's interesting.
But that's how you're an artist. Like artists know how to break the rules of different things. So if my rule is gameplay first, and then somebody's like, okay, but what about Jack Sparrow? And it's like, oh no, that's an amazing character. Like I love it, and that's kind of the interesting part. But
so I think it's going to be interesting because I'm a little bit the opposite, where stories like stories or characters. I have no problem going back and playing a PlayStation 1 game that looks like garbage if the story's great. I think, stories are timeless because people literally will always read words on a page, and those will be, people will enjoy that thoroughly, right? Like that's the most basic form of storytelling, I guess. Maybe verbal, but I don't know. Where, in video games, obviously you're adding all this extra stuff on top of this storytelling, right? So for me, it's just like if it has a great story, great cast of characters, like I'm in. I would say like setting is, right below that. If it's a world I love, like Cyberpunk, it has its problems, but that's like right up my alley. I love cities. I love that grimy nature, that gritty nature of the city where you're in these alleys that are disgusting. There's drug deals going on, like, all this crazy stuff, crooked cops. And I love that stuff. I love that stuff so much. And like really big skyscrapers and people in suits and stuff. Like you have all of that, you know what I mean? And if that game was executed well, it would probably be my favorite game of all time.
Yeah, sure.
It might be, it just hits everything that I love. Or so like settings really important. I want to be lost in the world, I guess. I'm a very immersive person, right? So,
and see, that's interesting because you're immersive, which it's hard to get immersed in like an RPG maker.
Yeah,
right? Like,
right.
That's going to be a challenge.
Sure.
I keep talking about like gameplay and things like that, but then like RPG Maker limits you on like what the gameplay. And when I say gameplay, and you're talking about like battles and things like that, that's like the gameplay part of it.
Yes.
The thing that I think we could like wrap, or at least I can wrap my head around gameplay wise, where I can kind of scratch that itch, is like, is the gameplay actually the combat, or is it more rewarding? And this is something that we would obviously have to discuss and things like that. Like, do you need combat? Like, are we making a classic RPG in that sense, or is it something where you are being presented with other conversations and dialogues and
like
how you handle situations?
And battling takes a second.
It's like a supplement to it, where like if you have a conversation and you negotiate a hostage rescue or something like that, like that would be more like that. That's a huge amount of experience.
Now, do you do well? Yes, I do agree with that. Definitely, where you need to reward players for not always fighting.
Yeah,
but do you make the option of like if you're a hack and slash kind of guy, can you just get into every battle, or is this more of a game where it's combat kind of takes a back seat to more?
I think that's what we have to figure out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a game called Littlewood that's very much like what's the Harvest Moon-esque thing? Chelsea's gonna kill me for not.
Stardew Valley.
Thank you. Yes, Stardew Valley. Where that's very much just like you have this town, you start to know the characters.
There's like no combat in there, right?
I think you could get to combat.
I haven't
in, like,
played
some
it,
of the
but
caves or something.
Yeah.
And with Littlewood, there's no combat. Like you dodge all of the enemies and stuff. But there's something where you could like the interaction with the villagers and stuff is very, very minimal. You don't really have conversations and stuff. It's more of it. You go there, you mine, you collect resources, and you make the town better and stuff like that. I think you could go down that road with an RPG Maker and really kind of add the combat elements to it and make everything more robust conversations, have different relationships, have a bigger world rather than just a village.
Yeah.
I think that's the gameplay. So like you're going to like, the problem is you're going to speak to people differently. You're going to have like the indie crowd who's just looking for something new.
Sure.
You're going to have the classic RPG people who by rights will probably be like the easiest audience in terms of like, oh, I'm ready to read tons of dialogue and go down this road and have these random battles.
Exactly.
But they're also going to be the harshest critics because they're used to.
They've seen it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you skirt that line between the two, if at all?
It's tough. It is really tough.
But I mean, that goes to our conversation of like start small.
Yeah.
And just build out characters and just you have this little cup and it eventually overflows into bigger things.
That's how we have to do it.
Right. And then I think
we'll get overwhelmed otherwise because our ideas are too, we're both in the same vein where we just
keep pumping each other up.
Have so many things we want to do.
Yeah.
So if we're like making this world, we're just gonna go crazy because like, oh, what if we do this here and that? It's just gonna keep going forever.
As long as it's recording, as long as we have, as long as it can always be tied back to the original kind of cup that we're filling, so to speak, like a metaphor.
Right.
Like I think that will work, and then
like
eventually the game, like
it's the same water.
Like the gameplay will evolve.
Okay.
Same with the like the title, the world. Even. Like it's not like we draw a world and say, here are all the land masses. This is all the different continents. Now we have to fill it.
Yeah.
It's like, here's the town. Okay. That goes to the city. Okay. How big is this land that they're on? Okay. What's next to that land? Oh, another land with another city. And like you keep expanding it out until you say, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
And then figure it out.
Yeah.
That might be the wrong way to make a video game. We never done it before.
No, I think that's definitely one way to approach it. And I think that's the best way for us to approach it, for sure. This being a first project, it's just too overwhelming otherwise.
Yeah.
I did have a random thought, though, just to completely fucking train.
All right.
Hijack your thing here. So I was thinking about a character. I played this I grew up back in the days of like Flash games and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I played this game. It's called Sunny, I think. where you play as a zombie, but you're like intelligent, you're like a person, but everyone's like trying to kill you. So it's just a total flip. Like normally you're playing as the other guys.
Yeah.
It's like this RPG. I should have you play it. It's a really cool game.
Okay.
It's turn-based and everything. It would be interesting, you know, it could give you ideas and stuff. But you're just like this zombie. Like you wake up on a boat and you're like this zombie and everyone's trying to kill you. And then you meet up with another zombie and your guys are like, what is going on? Like, why is everyone trying to kill us and stuff? It's really funny. But that's a great main character. Like you're a fucking zombie.
Yeah.
That's intelligent and like a good person as far as you can tell. You know what I mean?
But again, it's subverting expectations.
Talk about the subversion.
Just making it unique or new or something.
In the second one, you like get a human on your team. He's just like, yeah, there's like this cult we're rebelling against. And if you're going to help me, I don't care who you are. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like,
I mean, that's the thing though. It's not like it's like the entire game is just one big opposite day thing.
No.
Like it's...
We're going to have stereotypes. And if you do stereotypes well, they can be good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason they're stereotypes.
Right.
It's because people enjoy that.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Like you need the big beefy, like, you know, brutes, and you need the healer, and you need like that's something we can absolutely do.
But it'd be cool if you have this like healer dude or girl who like does no combat and just heals like what you're expecting until they get like their transformation, like it's full moon and they're fucking werewolf or something, and then they're the highest damage in the game.
Yeah, and that would be
you know
sick,
what I mean?
Right. Like the pacifist suddenly becomes like
just the ultimate weapon.
The John Wick of the like
exactly.
If some, you know, thing happens.
But like specific conditions or something, you know what I mean?
And that would be the interesting thing is like every character, because like I envision us having a massive party. I think that's going to be one of the hooks of the game is like, we're not saying this, but like, you know, like
set in stone.
Almost like a Ubisoft thing of like, oh, anyone in the world you can just recruit into your thing with like Legion, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if every character we had like you could bring in, and now the only way to do that would be the like the combat system is very rudimentary. Like you don't have like all these like it might be like, oh, you bring this person in, they're one of 3 classes, and it's not like this massive spec thing that like a 3 houses game or anything. But
you could do that if you're supplementing it with the dialogue, where obviously they're going to be a much different character than like you have Warrior 1 and Warrior 2, but they're 2 very different people.
I guess my thing, rather than let me roll it back and not say every character
it's not
going to
be like that's impossible.
But it might be something where it's like even the most, and so one of my ideas was having a character named, do you know Lorem Ipsum?
No.
So it's just Latin. And if you're designing something and you just need placeholder copy, there you Greek it out, or you say, okay, it's Lorem Ipsum, and it's this whole big like paragraph of thing. I would love to have a character named Lorem, right?
Yeah.
And he's just this NPC, and his name's a placeholder, her name's a like whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things that, like, you know, the most thinkable person joins your party, and like that's part of it is like you learn about this character, or you learn about like, you know, just like if you have these different NPCs walking around the town, they're just like saying this dumb dialogue, like if you talk to them enough, eventually you can get them. So it's making players aware of that, of like technically anybody could be in your party. Not everyone can, but like you
anyone,
don't know who, like, so it makes people explore and talk to everyone and see some
like
stuff.
It's not obvious who party members can be,
and it's not obvious on the conditions. I think that, and now that would be very, very tough on the coding and putting all the different events and keeping track of all that, which is why we need the whiteboard.
Dude, a fucking huge whiteboard.
But it'd be incredible to be like, okay, here's a set of triplets, and you know, if you go and you know, out of the 3, only one is going to join your party. Right? But if you have one, then you can get number 2, and if you have both of them, then the third one will join your party, or something along those lines. Like but maybe they're in different continents. Who knows? You know,
I love as you know, I love the triplet idea. The Claytons,
like the Claytons,
or the Carmines. I mean,
but
love
that.
that.
But that's the kind of stuff. Is like you can have all these different conditions, or you can have this thing where it's just like, you know, you meet this ghost, and if you recruited a witch or something, you can have her bring back the
Sure.
guy,
Yeah.
or girl or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
there are just these really kind of cool things on like the characters and the personalities and stuff. I think will come naturally with us as we just see the character and be like, boom, this is what I think.
Right.
This person.
Like I
is
said,
like.
we used to do that.
Yeah.
With and it was just.
But the gameplay for me, and it's not a dating sim, but I think the part of the gameplay would be finding the conditions and mapping all that stuff. I think that's interesting too.
Yeah, like I imagine we need more in the coding side of things, a concrete system in place of levels of relationships that you have with people.
And this would overlay on everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can have a friend and there's multiple levels to that friendship. You know what I mean? And you can level up. And, that's tough to do because I kind of hate when that's arbitrary. Mm-hmm. I hate when, and this is a classic RPG thing where it's like, okay, I gift some girl an item and now she loves me.
Yeah,
I fucking hate that. I hate that. I want it to be intricate where if you don't, obviously it would come down to like what dialogue options you pick, I guess. I'm assuming you can pick dialogue options, right? Like
in RPG. Oh yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
You would have to line up, specific things, dialogue options that you say to them, have similar interests or things of that nature. But not only that, but like just the actions that you do, like every action. And I would imagine that our game's going to have a lot of decisions. You know what I mean? Because that's the interesting part, having the player make decisions that are challenging.
Right.
And maybe it's not even this or that. Maybe it's 3 prongs. Maybe it's 4, what decisions you make, what quests you take, will increase or decrease your relationship status with these other characters, because they're going to have their own, views on things, and some people are going to disagree or agree with what you do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're not going to get everyone to like you. That's going to be a big thing because, I know one of those tropes was like everyone loves the main character or everyone thinks the main character is attractive or something. Like, I don't want that. I want the main character to be in a gray area where he can't please everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's going to have to piss off some people,
right,
to make these tough decisions.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think that that's what makes the game interesting, and that adds a level of, like if you like one person and not just like, oh, you guys are in love, so now this other lady's pissed at you or something like that. Like, it's not like a Liara and Ashley come in and just start yelling at you. I'm like, okay, choose one. But it's the relationship of like, if you're hiring a mercenary who's prejudiced against elves or whatever, and you're starting to talk to an elf or you're friends with an elf, maybe the mercenary looks at you differently, and that's going to be the very, very complicated
thing. Like, he could say, like, I don't trust a guy who trusts an elf. Right. You know what I mean? That you can't get him. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely
I think that's going to be the interesting part.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, establishing those relationships, you should get rewarded for that too. Like, maybe you get like your best friend, like there's like a best friend mechanic where your highest, non-romantic relationship is like your best friend. And then you get like a bonus based off who that is.
Right.
Like, maybe it's like an orc and he like teaches you, maybe it's lore about the orcs. So now then when you're speaking to another orc, maybe you can do a little bit better, or maybe it's something combat wise where he's like teaches you a secret technique. Technique exactly. A technique or something that unlocks something, just a reward for spending your time with that character,
Or you go into dark shit where it's just like, okay, you have these things where, some of the characters can't, like, not every character can be like, hey, we're good, we're gonna, like, and I think Final Fantasy VII did it well, where Barrett's like, oh, I murdered a bunch of people. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I blew this up, and and he kind of came to grips with it, but it wasn't like, there was never really any consequence, like, I'll do better. Like, you murdered people.
It was also like, the city that it blew up, like, just got blown up completely, so it's not even like but I understand what you're saying, like if he had to go back and face those people,
face them, but I guess what I'm saying is, like, you can kind of depend on, like, let's say you have that best friend and this is your favorite character and you're like, oh my gosh, this guy is a beast, I love him, whatever, and then somehow that like dies, like we scripted in where it's like whoever the best friend status is will die.
Ugh.
Right?
Ugh.
But depending on who you have in the party, or you can gain whispers and things like that. It's just like, hey, there's a way to bring them back. And then that's a whole other side quest. Yeah. But then you have these consequences of like, hey, we can bring them back, but you have to sacrifice someone else. Maybe a party member, maybe just some random person.
Maybe
but then
yourself, like a part of yourself.
Sure, something.
You have to make a deal, you know?
But then like that, using that black magic to bring your best friend back, do other party members, like, some of them have to be like, what are you doing? You can't do this. Like, serious? This is terrible.
The mission's more important. We agreed the mission was more important.
Mission more important, or just something is like, you're playing God, like this is...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And they leave, or you lose somebody. So it's
or
like...
they fight you.
Something.
Yeah.
Right.
You have a paladin in the party who's like, dude, this is against my code and I will have to stop you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think those dynamics like, that would be what the game is.
Yeah.
And that's going to be like...
It's the best parts of a Mass Effect, honestly. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's more,
But it's like, how do you incorporate, do you incorporate combat into that? Like, that's the thing is, like, that's going to be the interesting part is...
I think we have to.
I think we do too, and I think that you can have fun with it. So, and I know you didn't play Undertale, but I think that's something where Undertale, the reason why it was unique was because it had fun with those combat moments.
Right.
And I think that if we can get to that point where we can... like, you can have like a traditional like battle sequence or whatever, but if we can really influence how that plays out, or we can tweak things where it's just like, oh, that's a funny attack, or oh, that's a neat thing that if a paladin's fighting a skeleton, he has a certain dialogue or something, and like just instantly smites him every time or something like that. I think that could be pretty cool.
Absolutely. Like, you recruit a specific character, and a villain later down the line is his brother or something that you never would have known about. And that kind of goes back to another thought that I had with like the best friend mechanic or whatever, the relationship mechanic is like, let's say there's a best friend status, and that's only going to be one person per playthrough, right?
Yeah.
You unlock a piece of their story only if they're your best friend, and it's a quest or something. You know what I mean? That'd be interesting. That's the reward that we're talking about. You get that extra nugget. But only if they're your best, because they can confide in you with something crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or and maybe it's something like this. So there's a dude in your party, right? And maybe he's the reserved guy or something, the edgy guy or whatever. And he's your best friend. And let's say he confides in you. He's like, dude, like, there's a demon living inside me or something crazy. Now let's say he's not your best friend, and like you find out about that later, where he like transforms or something and like turns on you guys or something. And he because he was so worried about it, he never told anyone, you know what I mean?
You're just not prepared for it.
Yeah. But if he's your best friend, it's like, dude, there's like, and then you're like, fuck, dude, we're going to try to help. We're going to fix this now. And you like sidetrack and you try to, and you might have to sacrifice some things. Like maybe the bad guy gets away with something because you're trying to help your friend at this point. Those are interesting things where it's like that only happens if you spend that time with that person.
And that's the thing too. Like, I would love it, and obviously we haven't made a single game, much less sequels.
I know, right?
But like, it'd be awesome if like you get to at the end of the game, like however it shakes out, like you get to pick one character of just like, okay, this person is preserved forever, or they sacrifice themselves or something. Sure. And that's who then would like you could get them in the next game.
This does go into sequel territory, right? Yeah. Where like, what's some of the best things, just to bring it back to Mass Effect, is seeing your decisions, realized in future installments, whatever that is. Someone sacrificed themselves. Someone mentions that in the next game, oh, I knew that guy.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
And see, that's the art of it though, so Mass Effect obviously is vast, and even a AAA studio couldn't nail the ending on that stuff. Right. So like, I think I have my own thoughts about how to end a game, by the way. Sure, yeah. For our game, it would be something like, the city of X is always going to be saved. You're always going to get it to this point.
Sure.
Now, like, smoke and mirrors and stuff, and it can feel like choice. It can feel like what you're doing is saving it, but like the end result is always this. Very, very much like a Telltale thing, right?
Sure.
And that's how you kind of fudge it, where the second game, you do see all of those decisions.
Yeah.
But that's the tough part, is like, how detailed do you want to get, where it's like, do you really have to code it out where this city is actually in ruins, for an entire game? Like, that's the thing,
that's
is like
fucking crazy.
Not to stifle us, but like, we could put it on the board, but it's one
what
of those
you have to
things.
do. My first thought would be, all the major decisions that you made in the first game, when you're making the second game, I mean, there's no like save data or whatever to like import into the game. So we'd have to go through and be like, the beginning is, what decisions did you make? And you go through and pick. And then if you didn't play the first game, there'd be like a randomized option. Or if you, for the fuck of like,
you just have
whatever.
like the vanilla, like this is quote unquote canon or whatever.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So that would be something, how you implement those, decisions and who's alive, who's not, what happened. But like, to
like
your
a
point,
Genesis intro, sure.
If there's a city that's gone, that's that's tough.
I guess it depends too. Like if you want to actually do a true sequel, and like, again, we're way ahead of ourselves.
Right, exactly.
Like,
we always do this.
We might love these characters and we don't want to be done with them and things like that. In all honesty, I think we end up starting out with like something very, very, very small, is like a proof of concept. And
yes, I think we should make like a test, kind of thing. Like the big project isn't going to be our first thing. That would just be too overwhelming, I think.
Oh,
like,
absolutely. I think
just make like a little demo, a little something just to get our feet wet.
Yeah, learn the program, that kind of thing, and have character. And then if they move on into other characters, or they're just an NPC in the actual,
like, we'll have our little sandbox thing, and then that we can take things from that, or be like, oh, you know what, that didn't really work. That's where you start experimenting a lot and figuring things out, and it's not just the technical aspect, which is what it's mainly for, just to get a feel for what the system's like and how to develop things like that. But with characters,
I mean, I think you're gonna have a kick with the logic with all the different dialogue trees and stuff, because it spiders out very quickly, and not only from the
like
fact
how
that,
it's implemented in the actual program,
like the actual programming.
That would be awesome.
Like it's pretty intuitive on how it, like, from what I was kind of messing around with, but it is very, very interesting, because like, depending on the different branches and stuff, like, you're going to have to then trigger other events that might only get triggered if you hit a very specific thing.
And it gets
nuts.
Complicated mathematically, right?
Yes.
Like this is something that's very complex. But I'm glad to hear that we have a little bit of that freedom to kind of get crazy and wild with that.
I mean, if you have the time and patience, like, you can do pretty much any, like, it's very robust.
And here's the thing, like you were talking about earlier, like, anyone can buy RPG Maker and like make games. So what's going to set us apart? And I think something that could set us apart is just putting in the work. There's not a lot of people who are going to sit down for hundreds of hours to make a stupid RPG Maker game. But if we do that,
it's marrying it. Like, I mean, there are, like, you'd actually be surprised at how many games are out. Like, and honestly, we probably should start playing some just to see there's a ton what's being done with it. But like, I mean, all of these games, if somebody sits down in front of RPG Maker and makes something, that is automatically a passion project that somebody is putting there and like putting themselves out there.
Yeah.
So that's something that's like daunting in itself. Yeah. But like, that's also exciting.
I am a firm believer that you can outwork people.
You could.
I'm not going to say we're going to be the hardest workers ever and it's going to be the best game, but people know hard work. Like, when you play a game, immediately if there was love put into this, if there was work put into this, if they took the time. And it's those nuanced things that you're talking about, assuming everything's polished and we get everything running correctly.
Yeah, I mean, polish is like the key
word. I mean, like,
too,
how polished can you make it? I'm just saying, like, everything works right, like dialogue trees, everything like that.
But I mean, it's tight, right? Like, I mean, it's the perfectionist stuff where it's like we're going over the same events over and over and over again. Is this the right dialogue? Is this the right?
It's gonna suck.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's
gonna suck.
That's the stuff that the only way that doesn't suck is if we put so much time and effort into the characters, the story, the settings, all of that. Because if that's written down and we understand exactly what we're trying to do,
the vision, the goal,
then we can get to the point where, like, okay, hey, I just don't know what to do here. I can't. But there will always be people willing to help, willing to jump in, like YouTube videos you can watch and things like that. But we have to understand what we're trying to accomplish. If we're just going in and being like, oh, what can this program do? Oh, I made a little tree. That's cool. Oh, I can walk behind the tree. Like, that's neat. But like, if we don't understand the significance of that tree or what we want to do with it, what's the point? And I think that's a great
thing to bring up. You know, having that end goal in mind kind of motivates you to get through those bumps in the road.
You are armed with the content.
Yeah.
If we're content rich, and like this happens all the time whenever I'm trying to like dick around with a UI or something, and it's just like, oh, I want to redesign Steam, right? Run a redesign whatever.
Right.
As a UI design, digital designer, like that's something that I just do. But the problem is I very rarely have the content to populate my wireframes or something like that. And then those projects fall apart because it's like, well, I can only do so much without something being fed into that. But if we already have all the characters and the story arcs and understanding, okay, we're starting in this town, then whenever we go in front of RPG Maker, it's like, okay, all we have to do is just make the inside of our house.
Yep.
Like starting out, that's all it is. Yep. We should know everything inside that house, any little hidden things we want to do with it or anything like that. Let's just make that. And like that's however many hours that takes and makes that perfect. And then we, again,
expand,
balloon out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds good on paper. I mean, it's getting daunting, man.
Yeah. I'm excited. Like, I just envision us long night, dude. We're just fucking tired. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just being right. Like, we can't figure out a problem. It's scary, but you know, that's kind of like the fun of it too.
I think it's taking all our characters, it's saying what we want to do, and then what are the compromises and what are we sacrificing to hit, you know, like that release, or to, you know, like do we get rid of combat altogether? You know, are we so invested that we think, and I'm not saying we do this, but is the character interactions and the story and everything so important and so well thought out that combat is almost inconsequential, and if we just deleted that section, we can put all our time and effort into understanding the logic of all the relationships, mechanics, and things like that.
Yeah. And as we get, like, we need to get into it to really discover, you know, get a feel for it, right?
Can you come up with you don't have to do, I mean, obviously it's geared this way, but like there are people that have created completely non-traditional RPG games with RPG Maker. It's possible. You can definitely do that.
Yeah.
So it's
you have to have a really good understanding of the program, I'm assuming.
It's a lot of events, a lot of logic. But if
it's it's like coding. I mean, you gotta make everything make sense, and the formula needs to be correct where everything works.
And there's gonna be a million bugs and different ways to choose the system. But if you can find something that's just as fun as combat, fun being a subjective term, but like if we can do something that, hey, instead of combat, this is how you get experience, or instead of combat, this is how you do it, or instead of the traditional combat, we still have combat, but you have to constantly like run into them, and like it's like a real time thing, you know, like almost like a Legend of Zelda. Technically, you can do that. That would be super neat.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be
baby steps.
Baby steps. Even though we talk about huge fucking leaps and bounds, but
I mean, it literally is. We're sitting down. We're going to hit randomized character.
Yeah.
Take a Polaroid, like I said, because we're going to need a Polaroid just to put it out on the
there's going to be one night where we do that. There's going to be one night where we just talk about what the inside of our house looks like, what's in there, where we start.
Outline the story.
I want to start in a bar, because I start every D&D campaign. You got to start in a bar. Even if the game is just a story. Like, hey, man, you ever hear the legend of Tyler? Boom, there we go.
I like it. I know. I think that's fantastic.
Something.
Any like story in a story, or anything where it's like the intro
that can be so funny, where it's like something fucking ridiculous happens, and then it zooms back out to the bar. He's like, did that really happen? He was like, how interesting would this be, where it's like you fuck up or something, okay, and maybe you're on easy or something, and it zooms out into the bar, and it's like, no way that happened, and you're like, maybe I'm misremembering,
like Bastion or like Hades type of thing. Yeah, for sure.
You know what, on second thought, that didn't happen, or I don't know. I'm just, obviously it's just all spitball, but crazy. It's just so, dude, there's just so much, you can put all your creative juice into into a project like this, which is so exciting and scary and
every
every emotion.
We're going on 3 hours. Can you
Dude,
imagine
we
that?
over 3 hours?
We're going on
shit.
about 7 minutes. So we could probably wrap it up, but I know we talked a ton. I think the thing is we're obviously going to sit down. We're going to start mapping some stuff out, and then we could definitely use this as a place to talk through ideas and things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm excited, man. I think it's going to be huge.
It's going to be something.
Yeah, it's
good or bad.
It will be something.
Yeah.
In a week, you do play Grandia. That's when the Steam sale starts.
Grandia.
Anyone that's listening, it's the 24th, I think.
25th, 24th, yeah. Somewhere around there. We're going to try to get a stream up and running for that. So
yeah,
we'll have to see how that goes. It's going to be exciting, man. I can't wait to play that.
I cannot wait to see your opinion here.
It's going to be awesome, man.
Thoughts.
Yeah, I can't wait. Great. I think we covered a lot. A little bit more serious that time, but
we covered so much.
Yeah. I liked it though. It was fun.
Dude, I love talking with you about this kind of stuff. I mean, it's crazy. It's all over the place. But I think we have good ideas. I would love to see them in a.
There's something there in the 3 hours of talking.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is it's just brainstorming.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
That's all it is. I like it. It's healthy. It gets it out. All right. Well, that's our show. There it is.
Longest show yet.
It is the longest show yet. Hopefully we don't do this every time, but we just feel it out. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate anyone watching. If you made it to this point, there should be a medal or something, some achievement, dude.
Yeah.
That's what they need to add on. Give an achievement for, anyways, before I get in.
First person to leave us a comment, you get the
gold medal.
The first achievement.
There you go.
Yeah.
We you want to tell them where we're at? I always forget, but we're on Apple, we're on
all your podcasts. If you're listening to us,
Spotify, we're there, right.
We are on Twitter now at Couch Company Pod.
Yep.
And then anchor.fm/Couch Company.
Yeah, and be on the lookout. Do we have a Couch Company Twitch, or am I just going to be using my?
We do. I mean, we can because technically Twitch, you can just use your Twitter. So.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, so check us out on Twitch. We're going to be doing the Grandia 2 playthrough.
Yeah,
that's going to be fun.
Man, I can't wait.
Yeah,
it's going to be good.
All right, we'll see you next week. Peace.
Bye.